We are tonight's entertainment.
You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Excellent!
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Movie Mania podcast, where we talk movies past, present, and future. My name is Mr. Titus Reviews, aka Trilbee Reviews, and joining me is the man, the myth, the legend. Lego your egos and grab hold of your upside down, up, down, ups. Trey from Podcast Media.
Is that how that feels?
Lego my ego.
Just standing around waiting for to see what he's going to say, and this making me laugh every week.
More or less,
Trilbee.
yeah. Hello.
This is episode 78 of the show. Can you believe it? Episode 78. Technically, if you guys are listening to this, I mean, unless I put 4 out in a week, in which case I might, people are going to start expecting them daily now. This will be, in case you're keeping track at home, ladies and gentlemen, this will be the 4th podcast recorded without me posting any of them.
Yeah, I was thinking we could make this Halloween themed, but by the time this comes out, it's going to be, Christmas? So, Merry Christmas, everyone. I hope you got everything you wanted. Yeah. I hope that Santa was kind, or if I hate you, if you're one of my enemies, I hope you got a load of coal, you piece of shit. But, you know how it goes.
I hope you all had a very happy Easter. I'd imagine it was a nice time. It was nice having a weird rabbit drop off its eggs for you.
Yeah. Oh, it's my birthday again. We've gone to June. It's my birthday, so thank you for all of the welcomes and the congratulations.
Happy Halloween, as in Halloween of 2018.
Yeah. Oh God, we've come full circle, everyone.
Oh, we're just a year behind. I wouldn't put it past me. If it gets that far, I'll start sending people to edit it for us. All right, how are you? How have you been, Trilbee? You been all right?
Yeah, I've been good. I'm currently recording in a very darkened room because I was going to do some filming in this room earlier today, and while moving stuff around, I knocked the light bulb. So I just have a desk lamp, so I'm kind of recording in a very atmospheric place, very fitting considering it's nearly Halloween, but it's making me feel very sleepy. It's making me feel like I can nap in this place, but I can't do that. I'm podcasting. But yeah, I'm doing okay. What about you?
I'm a little upset, and just because everyone, I feel like I'm gonna get the short end of the stick this time around. You know what I mean? Because I didn't love Stranger Things season 2, and I feel like I'm gonna get belittled for it. So that's maybe that's why I'll wait 2 months to put this thing out, so all the hype can die down, or I can just release it tomorrow and have everybody kill me. But if you guys have been following me on Twitter, then you know that I have been. Everyone's saying, tweeting out, "Why are your tweets so negative? Why don't you like the show?" I still liked it. I just wasn't great. But besides that, everything's going. Oh, I visited a college on Friday. I did doing the whole university tripping. Not tripping as in drugs. Tripping as in going on trips.
Yeah, and seeing which places take your fancy. Seeing which ones you want to go to.
Yeah, I went to University of Texas at Austin on Friday. Anybody that, apologies for any of our listeners that live in Austin and are upset that I missed them. I presume that's probably 0 of them. There was a Comic-Con this weekend in town I was not able to go to because they did not give me my media badges, so I was not going to go. But I won't give names just in case they want to maybe do stuff with me in the future. But and I watched 9 hours of TV in about a day.
Yeah.
So
that's because unhealthy. You can have those square eyes. Those Netflix eyes.
Trilbee already knows about me and coffee and how we're not on the best terms right now.
Oh, no.
I say
it's betraying your senses.
I say as I sip another cup of coffee in my hand. I believe this is my 4th one today. I ought to stop before I kill myself. Anyways, on that grim note, let's get to the movie news.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. Cannonball!
Alright, guys, this is the movie news portion of the show. I'm just talking about the movie news that's cut over to last week. For starters, we have Shazam. DC has announced Zachary Levi, best known for his roles in Tangled and Alvin and the Chipmunks of the Squeakquel, to be... where was I going with this? All right, he's going to be playing Billy Batson / Shazam. I guess he'll be playing the grown-up version of Shazam. Now, is this movie...
I want him to play the kid version as well, but they've CGI'd his head onto a kid's body.
Well, I kind of wanted The Rock to play Shazam and just have when he's in kid form, just be him on his knees, and he has the typical little kid stuff, like the hat, and the the hat with a little pinwheel on top, and it's just The Rock on his knees the entire time, just scooting around on his knees.
Yeah, he's just got shoes where isn't at the ball of his knees, and he's just waddling around. The technology's kind of there because of the Central Intelligence thing when he was a teenage boy, and his head's just floating on this fat kid's body, and it's not right, man. It's just
Niall Lawler on Facebook just asked the most beautiful question ever, and we'll get to that when we get to listener questions.
I actually want to answer Liam Stobie's question about director's behaviour, because I was actually thinking this to myself the other day, and now I actually have a genuine reason to talk about it. But anyway, Zachary Levi, he posted on Instagram officially announcing that he was going to be Shazam. He says, "Honoured and greatly humbled to be part of the DC Universe in bringing the original Captain Marvel to life. I am beside myself with gratitude, not only for this opportunity, but also the incredible outpouring of love and support from so many of you out there in the world. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll be in the gym for the rest of forever." Which kind of makes sense, because there was a mild backlash. I say backlash, it's the internet, to the casting, saying he's not big enough, he's too skinny, he's too slim. But let's not forget Chris Pratt in Parks and Recreation, and then he gets himself jacked in a couple of months to be Star-Lord. Yeah, it's not like movie budgets don't account for personal trainers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not just built like Chris Hemsworth. Otherwise, I'd get a much easier ride in life.
we don't all just pop out looking like Thor. All right, we can't help it sometimes. Or like we can't all look like the Skarsgård brothers.
Exactly, but I don't know if it's a good or bad choice. It's a left field choice, I would say. He's not one of the names that was being bandied about, from what I can tell. No. But he's been around for a few years. He's been in some big projects like Tangled, the Thor films, where he took over from Fandral. Who played Fandral before? Josh Jallis. There we go.
See, I have no idea what that is.
I'm Googling as quickly as possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Josh Jallis, he took over and practically nobody noticed, but so I can't really attest to his range or anything like that, because he's not been in significant roles, at least as far as I've seen. But if they've seen something good in him, then let's see if he can stand up to the charisma machine that's known as The Rock, though, because I think that's going to be a big part of the casting.
Well, I think this is going to be one of those films where if they can get it right, it's going to be one of those films where the villain is kind of outshines the hero, which is completely fine, because some of the best comic book movies have been ones where the villain outshines the hero. I mean, just look at the Avengers or
The Dark Knight.
Dark Knight's probably the prime example of that. So, I mean, if Zachary Levi's a talented guy, he can sing very well. He's in my favorite Disney movie of all time, Tangled, #, sorry, not sorry. Like,
that's a good one.
Tangled's fantastic, and I love that movie. I went back and watched it probably a week and a half ago, and I cried.
I've not rewatched it for years, but I just remember him and his character so well, like when he's tied to the chair and he tries to do the smolder.
Here comes the smolder.
That's really funny.
He's upset because they keep getting his nose wrong in all the wanted posters. It's just it's little bits like that make that movie so great. But
what's the name of the horse?
No, Pascal's the lizard.
Pascal's
Maximus.
the lizard.
Maximus.
That is probably Disney's funniest animal.
Yeah. When he's just hunting him down, and then you have that beautiful scene with all the lanterns when they're talking over the lake, and that really nice song that probably should have won that year. I don't think it did though, but he's a good get, and I think that DC seems to be getting it together, because we actually have movies in production now where we're not pulling out of ideas, or we're not pulling out of production, we're not just throwing in new ideas just to throw them in the wall and see what sticks. I believe this one is in pre-production now. Do we know who's directing it or writing it or anything like that?
Yes, it's David F. Sandberg, isn't it? It's the guy who did Lights Out. Yeah, the horror director. Mm-hmm. Which I think is a really good choice, because I know it's going from small budget to big budget stuff, but that's how we got, like, say, the Lord of the Rings and the original Spider-Man trilogy. You get these small, quirky horror directors, and because they've worked in genre material on a low budget, they get it.
Doctor Strange. Scott Derrickson went from doing like Sinister and went on to do Doctor Strange. I mean, Scott Derrickson has some that. Horror, translating from horror to superhero films isn't as big of a leap as some people may think. Well, who's the other one I'm thinking of? James Wan. James Wan went from doing the Saw films, the Insidious films. He did Furious 7, which really plunged that franchise, plunged or propelled. There it is.
I was going to say plunged is a negative, isn't it?
Propelled that franchise into like billion-dollar status for every movie probably from here on out. So
yeah, like it used to be the way of like getting like up and coming actors. Like so many actors had their very first roles in horror films, and then they became superstars. Johnny Depp, Jennifer Aniston, George Clooney, etc. Yeah. It used to be the Hollywood model, and now
Leprechaun's a fun movie too. If you guys haven't seen Leprechaun, that's the Jennifer Aniston one. Leprechaun's a fun movie. It has one of the best one-liners in any movie ever.
Yeah, I do need to rewatch that remake from the WWE, or was it the WWF? That remake was terrible.
I didn't watch it. I stopped watching after In the Hood.
Oh, that's the best one, when he raps and then he goes back to the hood. But I just looked it up out of curiosity. I See the Light from Tangled didn't win Best Original Song. It was We Belong Together from Toy Story 3.
Oh, that's a good one. You know what? That was a good year for animation, because it was like Tangled. Tangled wasn't even nominated, was it? It was Toy Story 3, How to Train Your Dragon were like the big front runners that year. I remember Tangled wasn't even nominated, which is a tragedy. A tragedy among the
year, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, but come on, man. Like, that's a good... Whatever. No one cares about Tangled anymore, because Frozen came out and took all its thunder.
I will rewatch it, though. You maybe want to rewatch it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
But, yeah, good casting.
Yeah, so, keeping on the DC train... this is a DC character, right? My brain isn't just giving it out. The Deathstroke movie there's a Deathstroke movie in development. Is that been confirmed? Is that what this news is?
It believes I don't know if there's been an official statement from Warner Brothers / DC, but the outlets have been reporting that Gareth Evans, who did the Raid movies, is going to be doing a Deathstroke movie. Now, I think it's so weird that we're getting Deathstroke before The Flash. I think that in terms of the priorities that we're getting...
We got Guardians of the Galaxy before we got Wonder Woman, so...
We got Rocket Raccoon before a solo Wonder Woman film.
We got 2 Guardians movies before we got Wonder Woman out. Like,
that is technically correct.
Yeah, so it's not super out of the reach at this point in the superhero landscape. Not to mention Deathstroke's a popular character... from the video games. The Teen Titans fans know him all. Slade, one of the best TV villains ever, by the way. And then the Flash, right? I am thinking of the same character. Right? I'm not just.
Well, Deathstroke was he was Slade in the Teen Titans cartoon series, and
because I really don't want to be. I don't want to have egg on my face and have everybody in the comments be like, actually, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. He's the guy who, there was the initial screen tests that were released through Ben Affleck's Twitter, that he was allegedly going to be in Justice League or the Batman film, and now that might not be the case. And they even announced that Joe Manganiello, I don't know, that guy, he was going to be playing Deathstroke, but we don't know if that is still currently happening.
I'd be so angry if I were him. He probably turned down like a bunch of Marvel deals to play like a generic Marvel villain number 5. I'd be angry.
Yeah, he probably is son of Crossbones, but now he's gonna. It would be nice if he's still attached to the project, but I don't believe this is officially confirmed. But he is apparently the front runner, as announced by The Wrap. They were the one who broke the story.
Okay, well I haven't seen the Raid films, but I've heard nothing but fantastic things. They're on my watch list, so I'll get to them when I get to them. But right now, apparently, I have to get through The Big Sick. That's my next one I have to watch. That's the next one on my list.
So good.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but fantastic things. So once I just finished The West Wing on Netflix, so now I have time to watch movies again. So I'm gonna watch The Big Sick, and then I'll probably get to the Raid films.
That would be such an interesting double feature. The Big Sick and then the Deathstroke film. You'll get Kumail Nanjiani playing Deathstroke. That'd be interesting casting. But I don't see Deathstroke as a lead of a film. Like, he's an interesting character with an interesting backstory, but it's one that I think he works as a supporting character or a main villain of a film. I don't know. Does he need a solo product, or a DC just continually throwing at this dartboard the films that they want to make?
Yeah. Well, they have like 18 films in production. Apparently, you've got the what's the guy that did the Hangover film? Todd Phillips. You have the Todd Phillips Joker movie. You've got the Sirens, Suicide Squad 2, Harley and Joker, Deathstroke, Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Green Lantern, Green Lantern Corps. Justice League 2, Man of Steel, possibly. Like you have a bunch of films that are just, there's no kind of release, there's no kind of schedule, because people at Warner Brothers still apparently don't understand the concept of just releasing a movie and going from there. Like, Wonder Woman came out, and I feel like at this point Wonder Woman's going to be the fluke of the DCEU for how things are, for everything I'm hearing. Wonder Woman, they probably didn't expect Wonder Woman to do well, and then when they did, they're like, oh wait, put her in all the trailers, put her at the front of the posters.
Which isn't a bad approach. I mean, I imagine that Marvel did the same thing with Iron Man when was because they released Iron Man and the Hulk in 2008, and the Hulk was expected to be the bigger film because audiences knew who the Hulk was. They didn't know who Iron Man was, at least outside of a core comic book fan base. But then Iron Man did much better than the Hulk film, and then they rushed the sequel Iron Man 2 into production. Then they did Avengers and put his name, and Iron Man was all in front and center on the posters and the trailers. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they did the same thing in Captain America. You know, Iron Man 3 came out and wasn't loved by everybody, and then Winter Soldier blew the whole world away, and so then Captain America's now in front of Iron Man on the Age of Ultron poster, and they made Avengers 3 essentially a Captain America movie with Civil War.
Well, for Age of Ultron, depending on what territory the film was released in, the poster would have either Iron Man or Captain America front and center. They would swap depending on the territory.
That's amazing.
So those two were kind of fighting for the front and center space on the poster.
I watched a really interesting video on posters and why the names appear the way they do, and I always find that really interesting about how. Is it like the Pirates of the Caribbean poster where the names are not aligned with the faces? Yeah, it was like that, and like they talked about like Ocean's 11 and how they put the names in alphabetical order, but if they put the cast in alphabetical order, that means Don Cheadle would have gone in front of George Clooney, and the studios weren't going to let that happen, and so they just told to take Don Cheadle's name off the poster. So
what?
Yeah, and like they didn't even give him like the "and" credit, which would have been just a perfect solution, is "and Don Cheadle" or "with Don Cheadle," introducing Don Cheadle. You know what I mean? Like Superman didn't have starring Christopher Reeves; it had starring Marlon Brando, introducing Christopher Reeves. And I just find that all that interesting. You know, the whole poster situation. So like with Justice League, they don't. I guess they've kind of stopped doing that with a lot of movie posters. They've stopped, unless it's like a generic romantic comedy or whatever. They stopped putting the actors' names on top of the poster because I guess people don't care about that star power anymore, i.e. Tomorrowland.
Yeah. I think for trailers, like you had the trailer for the Isle of Dogs, which basically the last frame of the trailer is about 30 celebrity names on, I guess, being thrown up there. Whereas on the poster, I think that they'll more sell the premise as opposed to the cast, but it depends on the film. Like these films, they sell the characters and the concept as opposed to the actors and the cast. Like the first Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, it was Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, etc. And now for Guardians of the Galaxy 2, it was Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax.
Yeah,
it's the characters they're selling as opposed to.
Did you hear about what happened with Wes Anderson? Apparently, have you heard this story?
Depends what the story is. What's going on?
Apparently, he had a similar issue that Mr. Weinstein had. I don't know the validity of that statement. I don't know how true it is, but apparently I read somewhere that he's going through a similar situation. But I might be
allegations.
Wrong. Allegations, in a sense.
Okay.
But I might be wrong. I don't want to see I don't want to see the Cinema Blend reported by Movie Mania podcast. I don't want to see that going anywhere. Okay.
I'm googling it now. Nothing. I've got nothing coming up. Not to say that it's not happened or that there haven't been reports or stories. I'm just not seeing them at the moment.
Maybe I'm making that up and I'm just thinking it out loud. I don't know.
It wasn't Woody Allen announcing that he's doing a film based off of a guy a guy in his 40s and 50s having a relationship with a young teenager. That was going to be his next project.
But that's amazing.
Yeah,
it's like Roman Polanski making a movie about a rape survivor. You're just like, maybe you shouldn't. Maybe you shouldn't do that. You know,
it's like the fact that one of the Scream movies was revolving around an actress who had to avoid a pervy producer. Oh wait, that was a Weinstein movie.
Speaking of Scream, I watched the opening scene of that movie. It's chilling. It's pretty terrifying. I've never seen Scream, so I haven't. So I watched the first, I guess the opening scene where he kills Drew Barrymore. That's a really good opening scene, and it's done in one shot. It's essentially just Drew Barrymore walking around her house, and the back and forth between who wrote that movie. I don't know the guy's name, but
Kevin Williamson.
Yeah, the back and forth between Drew Barrymore and what's her name in the movie.
The person who plays Sydney.
No, the person that plays the girl who gets killed at the start of the movie. I forget her name.
Oh, yeah, that's Drew Barrymore.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to figure out the character's name. I forget. I mean, maybe she doesn't have a name, but between
no
Drew,
name girl,
murdered girl, between Drew and the killer at the beginning is
Casey.
Between Casey and the killer at the beginning, it's terrifying. Like it starts off a little creepy, and then it gets kind of lighter in tone, kind of flirtatious, and then just like out of nowhere, it's like, well, why do you want to know my name? Because I want to know who I'm looking at, and like the whole tone of the scene just shifts, and suddenly like the girl's locking her doors, and just you're left just so uncomfortable, and it's a really good scene. If you guys haven't seen Scream, I know it's like 20 years old now, but I'm not 20 years old yet. So if you guys hadn't seen Scream,
were you even born when Scream came out?
God no, I just turned 18, Trilbee.
Well, fair enough. But it's also the context that works so well for that opening as well, because the posters and the trailers had Drew Barrymore front and center. They pulled a psycho.
I was gonna say they psychoed it. That's pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if they did?
Imagine
if they did that now? Like Jennifer Lawrence was like put in like this really cool like new horror film, like kind of like Don't Breathe, and then just like 5 minutes in, they just cut her head off. You know
yeah, they probably could pull that off, I think, if the film was low profile enough.
Yeah, well, like Passengers. Might as well.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Passengers made money. It was profitable.
Was it really?
It made like $400 million.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Man, it was I guess that's what happened when you put, Chris Pratt and Jennifer Lawrence's face all over the posters.
Yeah, it just kind of shows that, the premise can draw people in. It doesn't mean that they'll stay for it, though.
Yeah. What was the walkout rate?
I really wanted that to be good.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Nerdwriter video where he re-edits Passengers?
Yeah, I love that guy, Nerdwriter. All those video essay guys are a bloody inspiration. They're partially the reason I stopped doing movie reviews, because I'm like, I'm not going to do anything as good as those video, because like video essays are essentially the new movie reviews. They're the new they're the new take on cinema, and they're reviewing the movie while also doing like a thesis paper on it. And I'm just like, well, I'm not that smart. I am, but I don't have the time. I don't have the time to be that smart right now.
Or the editing skill.
Yeah,
there's also his video on the Prisoner of Azkaban and the Helm's Deep battle in Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers.
He did a great one on, and we're just plugging the guy. If he wants to come on the show, he can. He did a great one on the Game of Thrones dragon attack from this past season. And I know you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but he talks about how that essentially this fantastic dragon battle was influenced by so many different aspects of cinema. And I think that, those kinds of videos in every frame of painting, lessons from the screenplay, my personal favorite, which is because, writer. But yeah, those guys all do great stuff, and I always get jealous. I'm like, oh, I was going to talk about that. Like I was going to do a video on Logan versus Children of Men because I had just watched it, and then I'm just like, and I'm scrolling through YouTube and I see Logan and Children of Men. I'm like, oh. It really killed a lot of my enthusiasm. I just kind of went to bed after that. I was like, well, it's bedtime. It was. I had this whole idea planned. I'm like, oh, these movies are actually really similar, and I was gonna talk about how like Logan changed the game in terms of cinema and whatever. Not anymore, because that video just got made. Anyways, speaking of things that are gonna ruin cinema, Michael Bay's producing a Dora the Explorer film, and on my notes here I wrote Dora the Explorer as in like ending in an A. I know that's not how you spell explorer, but that's just kind of what I wrote down, I guess.
It's going to be Michael Bay's production company, Platinum Dunes, who did the Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street remakes and the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle film. So the track record is great.
I like the first Ninja Turtles movie. I'm thinking...
I like the second one, oddly enough.
Well, I like to imagine it's probably going to have the same tone. It's like a Ninja Turtles or a Power Rangers. We all joke that it's going to be, Dora... fighting the Cuban drug cartel or whatever, and like with her rescue chimpanzee boots who rip people's faces off. But in reality, it's gonna be a little 12-year-old actress running around making witty, terrible jokes with a CG monkey who will probably rap or listen to some dance or do some dabbing. You know what I mean? Like that's what this is going to be. Have you seen that picture though of Michael Bay's Dora the Explorer?
Oh, the fan poster.
Swiper no surviving. I love that so much. I'd pay a lot of money to see like the Expendables or like. Yeah, like John Wick, but Dora the Explorer. I love that poster.
Well, apparently it is going to be like a teenage Dora. Like it's going to be Dora all grown up.
Oh yeah.
So there's if you want a teenage,
is that not just Tomb Raider?
Tomb Raider,
yeah, is it just Tomb Raider?
Maybe, I don't know. But I think when they pitched it to Michael Bay, they were like, okay, so Dora the Explorer is about this young girl with a cartoon monkey, and they explore and have adventures. And then Michael Bay was like, yeah, I like it. Can we make her hot and legal?
I like to imagine like they walk in, like they're pitch it to him, and he lifts up his head from a pile of cocaine on his desk. I like it.
Yeah. Oh, I like it, but make it hot.
There's just 5 Transformers posters from each movie behind him, and just mounds of money.
Okay,
essentially it's the Joker throne from Killing Joke, but just Transformers DVDs.
Let's fan cast this. So we've got the young girl from Transformers: The Last Night as Dora.
Yeah. Well, hold on. Let's give it a few years so that she can be 18, and then we'll cast her as Dora.
Okay.
Yeah,
well,
so
by the time the film comes out, she'll be 18.
Yeah. So then this is fine. We'll cast her as Dora.
It's the Romeo and Juliet clause rule of filmmaking.
The movie will just open up with someone holding up that card, or someone just reading that card, so make sure that we're all okay. It's like the movie was shot in Texas because of this clause.
Yeah, Michael Bay will attend every screening personally and get the card out before when the certificate comes at the beginning.
If you look under your seats, you'll find a card, and it's just that clause.
And Stanley Tucci is the monkey. And I say just the monkey because
you joke, but I think that's a pretty good casting.
Well, see, I kind of half joke because Dora the Explorer. I was born in 1992. The series started in 2000. This is after my time. I have no idea of what this series is.
The series started in 2000. I was born in 1999. So
yes, yeah. So you're kind of closer to it.
Well,
so you could have conceivably watched this when you were 3 or 4.
I learned my colors and my basic Spanish from Dora. So.
There you go.
Yeah, so growing up, I watched, Dora, Blue's Clues, all that early 2000s Nickelodeon programming. I did watch it. Fun fact about Dora, if you didn't know, the reason she is called Dora, most likely, is because Spanish, or computer in Spanish, is La Computadora. And fun fact, because Dora all takes place in a computer game. And people forget that, but that's how the show opens up. The intro is some guy with a computer, or some unseen person clicking open their computer, and then it's the Dora universe opens up. So it's like Wreck-It Ralph, but computer and Spanish. Fun fact.
Huh.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now the more I know.
Yeah, they learn something every day. Watch some hardcore Dora fan can think I'm actually just gonna write that down.
It takes place on an Amiga, not a computer.
It's probably some game system I was confusing with a computer. But I have no intention of seeing this, nor I have intention of viewing this. I'll look at the poster and we'll make fun of the trailer on the show, and that's pretty much the extent. Unless it comes out and it gets 95% of Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh yeah, if it gets a Lego Movie style reception.
Yeah, apparently the people they got they get I don't know who's directing it. Do we know yet?
No, I don't believe so. I think they've just basically announced that it's happening.
If they give it to Phil Lord and Chris Miller, you've got my attention. I'm like Leonardo DiCaprio and Django.
We do have a director. Sorry, we do have a director.
All right.
The director of Neighbours, Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and The Muppets from 2011.
Oh.
No, he wrote to The Muppets, but he directed Neighbours and Forgetting Sarah Marshall. Nicholas Stoller.
Oh, I was going to say, Nick Stoller or Evan Goldberg, because all those guys kind of work with stuff. All right, well, you have my attention. You all right? Oh man! See, now I have to go watch it, Trilby. I have to go watch this bland, generic kids film and hope there's some kind of light to it. Because I like them. I like the 2011 Muppets.
Okay, it says the film does not have a targeted release date, although some outlets are saying 2019. It will be a sequel of sorts, following a teenage Dora as she moves to the big city in order to live with Diego. Diego, I'm assuming, is the demon lady who lives inside her head. I have no reference.
Diego's her cousin. Diego's her cousin, who also got his own spin-off called Go Diego.
Is Diego
Go.
the monkey?
No, Boots is the monkey.
She's literally a monkey's cousin?
No, Trilby, keep up, take notes, man. We talked about this. Diego's her cousin, Boots is the monkey. Diego got his own spin-off. I think he gets a tiger in that.
I hope there's not going to be a quiz in this.
There's quiz. I think that maybe they're setting for a whole Dora universe with Diego gets his own spin-off. Wait, she moves to the city so it's not an explorer film. It's not an action movie.
No, it's exploring the city, exploring all of this product placement.
Is this Sony? It sounds like a Sony movie if I've ever heard one.
It wouldn't surprise me if instead of what's that over there? Tree. Yeah, that's great. And over here, this is Blu-ray player. Blu-ray.
Can you say Coca-Cola?
Can you say Coke?
It's just a picture of Michael Bay just lifting his up a pile of cocaine. All right. See, I
Can
like to
you
imagine
say
that
cash
scene,
in?
that scene from Wolf of Wall Street with Matthew McConaughey and Leonardo DiCaprio. That's just how Michael Bay has every one of his pitch meetings. Like Leo DiCaprio is like the producer, and Michael Bay is just Matthew McConaughey. It's like, you see my secret to success here, buddy? It's called cocaine. It's just
Yeah, and they're bringing a monkey and they throw it at a target, like when they throw the small people.
Well, he's still. I don't know what his next movie is. He's not doing Transformers 6, apparently.
What, Michael Bay?
Yeah, he's not doing it apparently. Like, so I don't know what his next film is.
I don't know if he's got anything directing wise lined up.
I mean,
Apparently,
he's doing
a documentary on elephant poaching.
Okay, I'm excited.
Because he's like an animal activist. So, like, remember when there was that video of those teenagers going and adopting a bunch of. I think they were gerbils or guinea pigs, and then just filming themselves throwing them into the river. Yeah, and then Michael Bay was like, "I'll give $100,000 to whoever brings these people in."
I was gonna say, bring them to me. I was like, what's he gonna do?
Bring them to me for a personal killing.
Instead of cocaine, it's just their ashes.
No. What he does is that he puts them in a motion capture studio, puts them in the suits, and then slashes them up with swords and axes, and then that's actual footage for a Transformers film.
Jesus.
Like, in Transformers Dark of the Moon, where he just rips Megatron's head off with the axe. Yes, that was motion captured very authentically.
Oh wow, that's why I had so much detail, and like you see the blood like spurting from the empty hole that was Megatron's neck. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, and
that's
Hugo
a
Weaving is just
violent
there giving
movie.
sound effects.
That's a violent movie. God.
Oh yeah.
But, like,
There's in Transformers: The Last Night, there's one of the dogs that has a small role in the film was adopted by Michael Bay because he was Britain's loneliest dog because he had like some disability and he'd been in and out of different homes hundreds and hundreds of times. So Michael Bay adopted him and put him in the film.
Wow.
And I know it's so easy to just hate and rag on Michael Bay, but he loves his animals.
I was gonna say, and then he had a dog in his lap as he watched girls wash his car to audition for his movie. Wow. Yeah. That's you know what I'm saying? It's like when you hear like stories of like Hitler being a cool dude, and you're just like, man, that's a shame. You know? Because someone went to bed one night thinking that Hitler guy's pretty sweet, and then he just fell asleep, and then he didn't think anything else of it, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's just.
We started this talking about Dora the Explorer, and now we've gone to this.
He's gone to Hitler. All right, Jill. You know, let's get to the homework.
This week, each one of you has a homework assignment.
Your homework is to listen to some real music, get inspired.
Is this your homework, Larry?
Down with homework?
All right, guys, this is the homework portion of the show because we talk about movies we're either assigned to see or just saw on our own. Chubby, you want to start us off here?
Yes, I saw Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, I'm Chubby. I'm so cool. I saw Thor Ragnarok.
Because for some reason we got it like a week early. So what I won't give any spoilers because I know, Trey, you haven't seen it yet, and most of our listeners haven't seen it.
You know, 60% of our viewers haven't seen it yet.
This is true, but I will say that I think it's really, really good. I think it's probably on par, maybe even slightly better than the first Thor film. It doesn't quite hit the huge heights of something like, say, Captain America: Civil War, or let's say Iron Man, and just like some of the other top tier Marvel films like Guardians of the Galaxy and such. But Taika Waititi is such an inspired choice to direct this, and the humour and the stakes never feel like they're in conflict with each other. Whereas with Guardians of the Galaxy 2, I felt like it didn't have as much tonal control as the first film. So when there's world-ending stakes, when there's all this serious stuff happening, then all of a sudden one of the characters literally turns into Pac-Man. It didn't quite gel for me, whereas here it gelled a lot more.
Everyone always craps that moment. I
found it funny, but it was such an inappropriate time.
It's such a good character beat, though. You know what I mean?
I think there's a time and a place.
It's Peter using his humanity to defeat his father, and everyone always rags on that moment. I'm just like, that moment's perfect, but whatever.
Yeah, but it's all subjective. And I know there's been a lot of people online saying, "Oh, why are people saying that the film's so funny? I don't want funny superhero films." It's like even The Dark Knight had some funny scenes. Like, what vehicle are you taking, Master Wayne? The Lamborghini. Then that's much more
subtle. The magic trick scene's hilarious.
Yeah, there's some really funny stuff in that film, but like this probably falls under action, adventure, and comedy. It straddles the line between multiple genres, as well as just mystical and mythical and science fiction and gladiator films and comedy. It runs the gamut. It's a really eclectic film, but Taika Waititi is absolutely up to the task to make all of these elements feel cohesive. A few disappointing elements, however, is that there's no like meaningful interaction between some of the lead characters. I won't say which, just because maybe the absence of me saying that it's not these characters and it is these characters could be considered minor spoilers. But we'll probably talk more spoilers next week or the week after, depending on when you see the film.
You know what? I'm going to cut the spoiler out. Is that your way of telling me that Thor and Loki never share screen time together?
Oh, no, they do. They do.
Okay, good. I was nervous for a second. I was like, I swear to God, if they don't,
there were just some characters I really wish like they sat down for a couple of minutes just to talk to each other and actually establish characters and establish actually who they are. I think that Mark Ruffalo, while great as always, is a bit underused, as is Anthony Hopkins. But there are some terrific standout sequences. The action's superb. The Doctor Strange sequence, not a spoiler, it's in the trailers. He's awesome
in the trailers.
In the film.
I stopped watching trailers, so I don't.
Okay. Know. He's in the trailers and the post-credit scene.
I was going to say, I saw Doctor Strange, so I know he's in this movie.
His sequence is pretty spectacular. My new favourite character in the MCU is in this film, and his name is Korg.
Oh, the one voiced or mocapped by Taika Waititi or whatever?
He's something else in this film.
Yeah.
Because he's this big rocky brute of a character, but he's just got this cadence to him. He's like, "Hey man, I'm Korg. I'm planning a rebellion, but we had no pamphlets last time, so the only people who showed up to the last rebellion were my mum and her boyfriend, and I hate her boyfriend." That's his character.
That's amazing.
and I guess every single scene with Korg is outstanding, and Cate Blanchett is awesome, and I think she is one of the top tier Marvel MCU villains. I think she's really awesome in this film.
I'm glad their villains are getting better. Then I'm glad.
I think she's not up there with Loki or Ultron, but she's still really good in this film. My voice broke for a second. So yeah, I think this is really fun, really entertaining. It's just a film that I think there could have been a lot more character in it in terms of like actually establishing the main cast members a bit more and developing them from previous films. But still, it's a really fun time at the movies. The special effects and the spectacle is awesome. Jeff Goldblum is brilliant. Karl Urban is surprisingly good as well. You kind of forget until you see him just how great Karl Urban is in everything he does.
I love him in Star Trek Beyond. I think he's the best part of that movie. Him and Spock's story is great in that one.
Exactly, and he's also Dredd. He's Judge Dredd.
Yeah.
And Tessa Thompson is great as well, and I hope that we get to see more of her in future films. There was a news story when they were filming Infinity War.
Good to know she doesn't die.
There was a news story that when Tessa Thompson was filming with Infinity War, that she basically rounded up every single female superhero in the MCU, as in all of the actresses, and then just she just tapped on Kevin Feige's shoulder. He turned around and saw all of these female superheroes behind him, and she was like, "Yeah, we wanted an all-female team-up movie." And Kevin Feige was like, "Yeah, you got it, awesome." So apparently that might be happening.
See you in 10 years.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Tess Thompson is awesome in this as well, and they do some really fun and novel things with her character. This is not a Planet Hulk or World War Hulk style film. If you're after that, you're not going to get it.
It's a Thor film, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it's a Thor film with sprinklings of Hulk in there. So yeah, it's a really fun film. I'm really glad I saw it, and I'm going to be rewatching it because it's just so damn entertaining. And out of the MCU's films from this year, Spider-Man: Homecoming and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I think this is the best of the lot.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, we'll go full spoilers in the near future, but I really
probably
enjoyed it.
Next week, or I mean, we'll probably record this next week. I don't know when it'll be posted, but yeah, don't worry, they'll all be out before Justice League most likely. That's just me being hopeful. That's the plan. So, okay, I'm looking forward to it. I've been looking forward to this since I saw the trailer back in like April. I've heard nothing but fantastic things. I'm excited. The fact that, I'm sorry, I keep tapping my desk. The fact that I hear that it's a comedy, it doesn't necessarily turn me down from the film, but it definitely fizzles out some. I don't know. Like, I guess I was expecting something kind of a bit more obscure and weird.
Well, it's no more a comedy than Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Well, that's my thing, right? Like, Guardians, I thought was really the most comedy Marvel movie we've gotten, And I think it's kind of a shame because Taika Waititi, while he does make hilarious films, he also makes films that make you just go, that's just a very well-made movie. Like, What We Do in the Shadows works in many ways as a horror film, in the same way that Shaun of the Dead works as a horror film and a comedy. And I think that, I hope that the comedy doesn't outshine the fact that we're seeing, because we'll never get a Planet Hulk movie, but I hope that they at least do the storyline just a tad bit of justice, and not just, I hope it's not just used for a couple of gags or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I hope that this movie isn't just, let's just make a comedy and let's just underplay the fact that this is a Marvel movie and it's a high-stakes action film. I don't want it to feel the same like every other Marvel movie ever, tone-wise. I think the reason something like Civil War and Winter Soldier work is because they kind of veer away from the tone of the other MCU films.
Yeah, like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will say that it's even though it is a really, really funny film, there are still legitimate stakes. There's a surprising body count in the film.
Okay.
And that's not to say that just because some characters don't survive or don't make it through doesn't mean that it's automatically high stakes. Stakes come from a variety of factors, but it's the fact that the sequences revolving around Hela, when she's front and center, there's no laughs to be found. We don't have a quipping and joking villain if that was an issue with Age of Ultron for many people. The film does know when to play serious, and even just some of the jokes aren't ones that are played, haha, this is a funny joke, pause for laughter. It's just, this is a funny situation, or this incident that happened is inherently funny. Yeah. It's got a really good balance. Okay. And the type of humour is Taika Waititi humour. It's not just generic broad pop culture references or an appropriate mic drop or music cue and stuff like that. It is. I was kind of expecting at one point Ricky Baker from Hunt for the Wilder People to show up, but it's surprising how many characters and actors from Hunt for the Wilder People do show up in the film. But I won't spoil them.
I had a cameo spoiled for me, apparently. There's apparently a huge cameo in the film that happens, and I had.
Is it revolving around a theatre production?
Yeah, I had it. Ruined.
There's multiple. There's multiple cameos in that scene. You might not even know who many of the actors are who are cameoing, but there's multiple.
I'm glad that it's more than just a certain actor that I love. That's the big one. Yeah. But there's like 3 or 4 cameos within that cameo. Well, it just seems that actor loves to be in space, but that's all I'm gonna say. Anyway,
that seems terrific.
Yeah.
Great use of Mjolnir as well. Mjolnir does kind of leave the film early on, as hinted at in the trailers, but they put it to good use.
I feel like I don't want to know if my prediction is correct, but so I'm just gonna. I don't want to. Remind me to ask you about something when we're done recording about Mjolnir, because I want to win $5. I want to know how quickly I'm going to win my $5.
Well, do you want to just in case we forget? Do you want to put your prediction out there, and then we can go back to this moment in the podcast in a future one?
Tell you what, I'm just going to write down in my notes that I wrote that there's a Thor spoiler in here, and I'll cut it out when we record or when I edit. So in case I forget to edit this. Jump ahead like 2 minutes if you don't want to know anything. Let me just write this down. I think 47, 45. Does Mjolnir have an Infinity Stone inside of it?
No.
Ah, damn. Oh well.
There is actually one. There is it's not necessarily a reference to an Infinity Stone, but there is actually a plot hole is filled in that was established prior.
Okay, that's nice to know.
Basically, how does Thanos have the Infinity Gauntlet, but it's also in Odin's treasure vault?
Oh,
that plot hole is filled in.
Okay, right on. Word. Okay, I'm glad I know this now. Okay, let's put that down. There's a Thor spoiler, and I'll cut that out later. All right. Okay, back to the thing that I definitely bleeped out for 35 seconds, just to annoy the audience. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I am looking forward to it, and I hope that I can have as good a time as everyone else appears to be having with these movies. Because I do like the Thor films. I really didn't like Thor 2. So I'm glad this is a step up from that. Something else that I saw, something else that came out this weekend was pretty big. Stranger Things Season 2 came out on Friday, the 27th, and I watched, over the course of this past weekend, like, pretty much from Friday night through Saturday afternoon. Taking a sip of water, sorry. I watched Stranger Things Season 2, and what I will say is there are parts of this show that are absolutely fantastic. However, the film I call it a film because they don't call it Season 2, they call it Stranger Things 2. Like, it's a second, like, it's a genuine sequel, which is kind of nice. The show, this season, suffers from a huge case of sequelitis, in which they literally just do the same thing over again. It's essentially, beat for beat, the same show as the first season, except bigger, in a sense. But there's no actual progression in terms of character or story, or even universe. There's barely any progression of the actual universe in the world. You know, you watch the first, and I only watched one trailer, so maybe I'm missing out on all the trailer marketing, but in the very first teaser they released in, like, I don't know, April or March, like months ago, it showed them in Ghostbusters uniforms, and we see this giant thing in the sky. You know, it's all over the posters too. They don't, and I'm gonna keep this as spoiler free as possible, they don't explore at all what that is, and they barely do anything with it. You know how in Tomorrowland, the marketing for Tomorrowland, like, the first teaser was one of the best trailers ever, in my opinion. You know, the main character finds that little pin on the floor and she picks it up, and it eventually like instantly teleports her to this new world. I'm like, what is this? And then you watch the movie and it's like, oh, don't worry about it, it's not important. Here's something else that's going on that you don't care about. That's what that that's what that thing is, essentially. It's a thing that to get you in and excited to come back to this world. They don't really do anything with it. They kind of just say, don't worry about it. What about the 80s? You know, like, it's but like no, like, you promised us a sequel that makes things bigger. Like, I think the teaser trailer tagline is the world's about to become upside down, and, you know, it teases certain ideas that they hint towards, but they don't do. It's like if you were to follow up A New Hope and then go and then immediately watch The Force Awakens. You're like, well, wait a minute, you just did the same movie, which isn't inherently a problem if you're doing it 4 movies later and you're doing it 30 years after the first one. But to follow up immediately the next year by just doing the first season again, I mean, even down to the fact of you have, I'm gonna keep this as spoiler free as possible. So you heroes are going off to do certain things, and certain kids need to stay in one location, and then a guy with a mullet comes in and messes up the whole thing. That's exact situation happens again in this season, and you're just like, wow, wait a minute. And, like, you know, new characters are introduced, and, you know, everyone agrees, everyone likes this new character, but one person, and everyone, and to this person's uncharacteristically harsh and rude to this one person. Again, like, they just took the black kid skepticism and anger from the first season and gave it to someone else. You know, they hint at doing something.
Were they whitewashed the skepticism?
Well, I mean, I guess, in a sense, yeah. Like, you think they're gonna do, like, they hint towards this kind of E.T. kind of relationship with one of the kids and a certain thing that they find, and you think it's going to be about this. You're like, and you latch on to this idea that that's what the season's going to be, and it gets you kind of excited to see how this develops. And they pretty much dump it the next episode, and then I did like this season, but they introduce this element. They introduce certain characters solely to say, see you next season. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, in Blade Runner 2049, spoilers for that movie, when Ryan Gosling gets rescued by these replicants, and it's like, we're starting a war off-world. Bye. Yeah. And then they just walk away. Like, it might as well have been a trailer for it's like when you watch Superman 1, and they just have Zod for 20 minutes, and then he just goes away, and then the rest of the movie happens. It's just, it feels very, very much like I think as Netflix, according to IMDb, they have 2 more seasons planned after this, and I feel like they didn't want to do anything else because they're waiting for season 3 to really expand the world. But I don't really want a 3rd season after watching this, because like I liked the show and I liked the characters, and the only one that really ever seemed to progress kind of was 11, who's back, and she has curly hair as you see in the trailers. She's great. The relationship that she has with certain characters this season is probably the most heartwarming aspect of the show, and I can honestly just watch a whole season about that character in 11. Like that's I thought that I want a whole season just about those two. They gave the black kid more to do, which is nice. I'm interested to know whether or not Finn Wolfhard, who plays Mike, was filming it at the time of this show filming, because he gets as much to do as the black kid got last season, which is not a lot. And he's honestly, he's barely in it. He probably gets the least screen time out of all the characters. It definitely feels more like an ensemble piece as opposed to being about him this season.
Well, do they give the kid who was basically absent for the whole of series 1 more to do?
Are you talking about the black kid? Which one is that?
No. The kid who disappeared in the first series.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. All right. So,
but well, like, if they're gonna not give one of the characters something to do, if they're gonna replace his screen time with somebody else's, it might as well be that guy.
Mm-hmm. He doesn't necessarily get more to do this season. He more or less gets to just be the MacGuffin of this season again, except he's not missing. You know, like things have happened involving him. But the show still revolves around something weird happening to this Will kid, and that's essentially what this season is about, is what's going on with Will Byers. But the show doesn't necessarily focus on Will Byers. Also, I'm convinced that Winona Ryder is on drugs. I'm convinced of it, because the thing that happened, we all joke about what happened at the Emmys, and but it is official. This has to stop. She is on
intervention.
Something. She's on something. They even go as far to do the same thing with. I'm not giving. You know how in the first season they're like, oh, this really way, let's do Poltergeist and let's have him communicate with like lights and stuff. This season it's like, let's communicate with maybe papers on walls. Like it, even going down to hanging things around the Byers' house again. They do everything they did in the first season again. Something happens to a kid. 11's out and about doing 11 stuff. Chief Hopper has to go investigate things, and things may go wrong, or maybe they don't. Oh, what's that? There's maybe more villains that have to be stopped by 11. Oh, how are they gonna do it? They do, and the more the season went on, I was like, they're really just gonna remake the first season, are they? And the more I thought about it, the more I'm kind of upset that they got us, and Netflix got us all so excited for this show. Netflix really wanted us to watch Stranger Things season 2, when in reality I might as well just be watching the first season again. That being said, everyone's great in it except maybe Winona Ryder, who really needs to get it together. The writing's really fun, a lot more cliched this time around, if anything. And but the characters are all still nice, and the world itself, while repetitious and while not really progressed, it is nice to be back in Hawkins. So it gets like, I give it an 8.1 on Twitter, I think. I'm gonna bump that down to a 7.7 here on the show. I liked it. I liked this season. I just think that if I'm going to watch next season, I'm not going to sit through all of it if it's just another remake. Not to mention, whatever it is new that they introduce sucked. So there it is.
Controversial. Yeah. So Trey, why did you hate the series?
I got a tweet. I got someone said it's like 8.1. Why? Well, geez, what'd you hate about it? I'm like, Jesus Christ. All right. I hope that was an ironic statement. I just whatever.
I completely skipped over watching it this past weekend. Not because I was busy. It's just one of those things where I've like, oh, Stranger Things is back. I'm kind of in no rush to watch it or marathon it. I really like the first season. I'm just not this I just didn't quite buy into the huge hype train for it. So I'll definitely watch it eventually, probably within the next week or two.
Did you watch the trailers?
I watched I think I did. I didn't like religiously follow them.
Yeah. See, I only watched the first. I actively avoided the trailers because I didn't want because in the first trailer in the first season they gave away the fact that Eleven did that cool thing with the van in the trailer, and I don't want that to happen again for me.
Okay.
And I feel like if I go back and watch the trailer, I'm gonna see things. I'm like, oh yeah, I definitely wouldn't have wanted to know that. I feel like a lot of people are gonna like this season. It's a beautifully shot show, for the most part.
Okay.
There's really one episode. I think we're all gonna know what we're talking about when you watch the season. You all know what I'm talking about if you've seen it. There's one episode where I'm like, why are we here? What is this? What are we doing right now? Like what? Like why are we? It's like you ever watch a TV show and they do a recap episode where it's just a clip show?
Yeah.
I'm like, why are we doing this? It's not a clip show, but it has the same progression and reverence as a clip show would. It's just like nothing matters right now. Why is this happening? How is this relevant to us at all? That's whatever.
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
And now my throat hurts.
So Stranger Things Series 2 gets a 0 out of 10 from Trey, who we're on record that the fact that he hates it.
Yeah, absolute garbage. Give it to the Chinese.
Yeah, but they've already taken our jobs, so you know. What? Who said that? Who let the politics?
Theresa May,
room?
is that you?
No, she's too busy in Brussels doing jack shit. Anyway,
that was my fire alarm, everybody. If you guys heard that, I apologize. Anyways, I'll let you keep talking. That's all I watched this weekend.
Okay.
So.
I watched. I basically watched 3 films in one day. So I'll just quickly go through this. Not lightning round, but I will be pretty quick with them. I saw The Death of Stalin, which is a pitch black comedy from Armando Iannucci, who did the Thick of It and the In the Loop series. Basically, in the mid-2000s, there was this British political comedy, which was kind of pseudo-handheld documentary, but not really documentary, about UK politics, and it starred Peter Capaldi, who basically, if you've seen any clips on YouTube or on the internet of Peter Capaldi just swearing profusely,
I've seen the one about him ranting about Star Wars. Is that the same?
Yeah, that's the same thing. It's that show, and the only thing that could be as ridiculous as The Thick of It is the actual state of UK politics. So, you know, like life imitating fiction.
It's like House of Cards. It's like how House of Cards has to up their ante because it's more boring than actual politics.
Yeah, as dramatic as House of Cards is, The Thick of It is that funny.
Yeah.
So what we have here is we've got a comedy set in 1953 after the death of dictator Joseph Stalin in Soviet Russia. Yay! And it's all hooray! Come on, kids, go onto the history train. And you have a who's who of comedic talents. You've got Steve Buscemi, you've got Paddy Considine, you've got Jeffrey Tambor. Like you've even got that guy from Hot Fuzz who is from he's the guy on the police force who can't talk properly. He's like Rosa. Yeah, he's in it.
That guy.
He randomly shows up. We've got Rupert Friend, we've got Jason Isaacs, who's terrific in this. Simon Russell Beale, Michael Palin, Olga Kurilenko. The cast is terrific, even though in the post, like Paddy Considine is one of the top billed people. He's in like one scene, so some of it's misleading, but for the most part, this is kind of a two-hander between a three-hander between Jeffrey Tambor, Steve Buscemi, and Simon Russell Beale as these 3 guys who are in this perpetual power struggle after Stalin dies and soils himself on his office floor. The film makes no bones about how incredibly oppressive and terrible Stalin's regime was, and people were just poverty-stricken, and people were killed, and there were lists of politicians or insiders of the communist regime who were killed if they did something wrong or did something that Stalin didn't approve of. It's all got this depressing backdrop, but there's so much terrific political commentary that if you have a regime that's full of backstabbing,
so kind of
then
like the Thinking Man's interview, like how the interview was just like, let's do fart and poop jokes, but with North Korea.
Yeah, more or less. It's why I think that this film might read very differently in America because of just the comedic sensibilities. There's a lot of wordplay. It's very dialogue heavy and improvisation.
Sounds dry. I love it.
It is immensely dry. It is as dry as the finest aged white wine. It is. It's all just these terrific actors at the top of their game. But it's also, if you have this oppressive regime that's all about backstabbing and betrayal and supreme leaders, what happens when the supreme leader dies, but he has left zero, there's zero instructions on how to pass power over to somebody else. How does that power struggle happen? And there's actually a lot of... I imagine it didn't take place nearly as comedically as it actually does in the film, but the actual events are pretty historically accurate, even if the behaviour of the characters don't necessarily reflect those who were really like in the Soviet regime. If there's anything approaching an issue with the film, it's the fact that these characters there's a lot of characters, a lot of people to follow, and they all have Russian names. So when someone's like, who's Vasily? I have no idea who Vasily is, or I associate him with the actor. So when they're talking about characters, it's like, okay, is he talking about Paddy Considine? Is he talking about Steve Buscemi? Who's he on about? It's kind of a little bit tough to follow.
I like to imagine you in the movie, you're like, who's he on about?
Who's he on about? Is this Michael Palin, or is this Rupert Friend? What's going on? Oh, Jason Isaacs here now. That's kind of a double-edged sword of having such a brilliant and notable cast. But it's incredibly funny. If you just watch some of the trailers, the trailers are a very accurate representation of what type of comedy you're getting. So I don't know what release it's getting outside of the UK. I believe it may be censored or banned in Russia because they describe it as a Western plot to destabilize Russia by causing rifts in society. Russia, let's see how you like it, but destabilization. But it's a really clever and really pitch black comedy that doesn't forget the really depressing origins of its story, but it uses comedy. It's in the same vein of Four Lions. Have you seen Four Lions?
Nope.
Where it's basically, what if the Three Stooges were terrorists? That's the pitch of Four Lions, basically.
Beautiful. I pay a lot of money to watch that.
Four Lions is amazing. If you it's that kind of pitch black comedy where they use the comedy to actually to make the dramatic elements even more real. It's not just dressing down the regime; it's also putting it in terms that mainstream audiences could maybe understand and kind of empathise and sympathise with it, to really subversive and clever ends. Really good film. That's The Death of Stalin. I recommend you go see it if it's playing anywhere near you at all. It's probably going to be a big Netflix fixture maybe in the coming weeks and months.
Fantastic.
I also saw Jigsaw.
Ooh, boy. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so
I'm not going to go spoilers because I have a
who cares? It's Jigsaw. It's the 8th Saw film. It made $15 million in the U.S. this weekend. It's
broke a profit. It's made a profit.
No, it's definitely. I'm sure it's made its money back. But you know what I mean? Like, who's okay? Tell you what, Trilbee. I'm gonna, because every Saw movie has a twist, right? So I'm gonna make a generic statement about Saw 8, and guess about what the twist is. Is it maybe that the main character was working with Jigsaw the whole time? Is that the twist of the movie?
I can neither confirm nor deny.
Oh, you're kidding! They did it again. That's like the 4th time they've done that one. All right.
Okay. But here's the thing. It's that twist, kind of, maybe. I don't know how much I can spoil. But
we'll just do full spoilers. It's fine.
But the thing with Jigsaw is that it's... On the surface, it is just another Saw film.
Yeah.
It has this similar beats. It's got similar plot points. It's kind of like a Saw greatest hits.
Okay.
But it's done, with the exception of Tobin Bell, it's an entirely new and original cast.
Yeah.
So
wait, he's in it?
Well, he's voicing. He's lending his voice.
Oh,
and
okay. I was going to say, is it like set in the past or something?
Well, he's.
Is it Trilbee? No way.
I'm wondering whether or not to go spoilers on. Are you going to see this? Are you bothered?
No, because apparently I just guessed the two twists.
Well, because I remembered we've talked about the franchise before in the podcast, and I thought that I didn't know if you had a real commitment to watching it or not.
I watched them because I had nothing to do, and they're always on TV, and so I watched them. But I didn't seek out the Saw films. Trilbee.
Okay, that's fair. Well, when. in the original Saw franchise, when Costas Mandylor takes over the reins from Jigsaw, he is an established character in the series. So that transition works, and we kind of do get to see the pieces come together. With Jigsaw, with the exception of Tobin Bell, we have an entirely new and original cast. So that the twists do not fly the way that they should do, even though superficially they're similar twists to what we've had before. And the twist at the end does not make a lick of sense, and ironically, unlike Jigsaw, it does not play with its own rules.
Yeah, because I'm like,
it does not play fair.
Does he know about? I'm guessing the main character. Is it the main character, or she, or he?
There's multiple story arcs. okay, right. Spoilers for Jigsaw.
Yeah.
I won't out and out say it unless it just happens to naturally come up in conversation. But what we're dealing with in Jigsaw is that, because this is Saw greatest hit, we do have an accomplice to Jigsaw, we do have a fan of Jigsaw, a fan of his work, we do have corrupt cops, we do have multiple timelines, as in we have parallel storylines, but it's not revealed they're parallel until the very end of the film.
Like Saw 4.
We have
Which was which is a pretty cool twist in Saw 4 back when that's like 10 years ago.
that is a really good twist.
Have you seen Final Destination 5? By the way, while we're going on tangents, have you seen Final Destination 5?
Yes, and that's an awesome ending.
That's my favorite of the film. I think that's, out of all the movies, I think that's the only legitimately good one. I think I give that one like a 7 out of 10. I think I like that one, and the twist at the end of Final Destination 5 blows my mind. It's so well done.
It's really good.
Yeah,
but for Jigsaw, I'll save some of the fully spoiler stuff for near the end of the discussion for people who just maybe want a broader opinion on the film. But there's only one decent trap in the film. The gore is actually pretty tame for the most part.
That excites me, because I don't like the big gory parts of Saw. Like, the first film was far more suggestive in its violence.
Well, you get a really weird... You get a really weird middle ground. There's one awesome, elaborate trap involving... It's in the trailers. It's the spirally red blade. And that's actually a really awesome setup, but you don't actually get... You see the aftermath of what it does, but you don't actually see it happening during, which I found really disappointing. Imagine the crucifix trap in Saw 3, but you don't actually get to see any of the twisting. You just see the beginning and the end result.
Is that the one where it rips his ribs out? Or his rib cage out?
No, it's the one where it's the guy who... all of his limbs are being twisted 360 degrees.
Oh, okay, that's right,
yeah. Imagine if
you just... Do you like how nonchalantly we're describing?
Although there is a callback to that one where they get the ribs thrown out, but you just see the trap, you don't get to see it in motion. There's a lot of callbacks and Easter eggs and stuff to previous films in the franchise, but the acting is not particularly good. It's the Saw movie. Yeah, exactly. They have someone who is basically meant to be a rip-off of Amanda, but it kind of really made me appreciate how good an actress Amanda was in the first 3 films. Yeah. Whereas the one here is just she's got red hair and tattoos, so apparently that qualifies her to be a punk rock horror girl.
I liked that story arc, by the way. If we're talking about Amanda in the first 3, you know, how she goes from kind of being this victim to being the supporter of Jigsaw to, in the end, you know, she kind of tries to do her own thing and she pays the price for it. I like that big twist. Saw 3 isn't terrible.
I think Saw 3 is my favourite, actually. I think
6 is pretty fun. I like 6.
1 and 3 are my favourites, but for Jigsaw, this actually ranks way near the bottom, if not the bottom, because I just found it pretty boring, to be honest.
That seems to be the general consensus from a lot of people, is that it's dull.
Yeah, I don't know whether or not it's the fact that the Saw films kind of give me a massive existential crisis, because I watched the first 7 films with my dad and my brother, and that my origins with this franchise is that I watched it on TV like 1 o'clock in the morning when I couldn't sleep. I turned it on and I watched it from beginning to end. I just could not sleep the rest of the night because I was so terrified. And then I went to the breakfast table the next morning and they were like, "Oh, Will, did you not sleep well?" And I was like, "No, I was watching this film, Saw. I really stayed up all night." And my brother and my dad were like, "Yeah, we had the exact same thing." And then we got the DVD of Saw 2. And then we watched that together.
You just put it on and you just hear, "Hello, Carlisles. I want to play a game.
I want to play a game. You all watch horror together. You'll have family time. You all
fail to understand the beauties of sleep."
but because I was too young to watch the films in the cinema, they'd always wait for the DVD to come out. Then we watched them all together. And then when Saw 7, the final chapter, comes out, we watched it together as a family, us 3. watching it on the big screen. I kind of associate the Saw franchise with this communal family experience. And then,
if you want to watch the next one, you have to cut your eyelids off, live or die.
You have to cut the eyelids off of your dad and your brother.
That way neither of them can sleep either. Live or die, your choice.
But now 7 years later, blimey, 7 years. 7 years later, my dad and my brother have moved away.
Flashbacks.
No, but I'm getting slightly existential here, because now that my brother and my dad have moved away and I've moved out and we've all gone different places, now I'm watching Jigsaw on my own. It's like, oh no, I can never go home again.
So
I don't know if I...
Jerry.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So I have this sort of existential crisis with the Jigsaw, and I don't know whether or not my opinion of it is actually subjective or not, or if I'm having a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
But for Jigsaw, I think it's not the fact that the franchise has run out of steam. I think that there's a hint that they could take this in interesting directions, but then the twist happens, and then it turns out, oh no, we can't do that now because it's a twist. Have you
listened to the movie Maintenance guys talk about the Saw franchise? Because they have a couple of Saw pitches I think would really work. It's a podcast from the guys that Plumb the Death Star. They essentially pitch their own ideas for movies, or they fix movies on their show, and they kind of pitch how they would do it, kind of like how it should have ended, but in podcast form, and less comedic. And they do some really good stuff on there. They have a lot of good Harry Potter stuff. I know you're a big Harry Potter guy, so I think you ought to check them out. But they did one on the Saw franchise, and I think I kind of expecting that was what Saw 8 was going to be. But apparently it's not. Apparently it's just another generic horror film set in the Saw universe.
Yeah, it's the twists only work in service of twisting and subverting expectations for the audience. They don't make sense in universe. The twists are only shocking to the audience, and there are two stories happening at the same time, but we don't know that they're taking place at different time periods until the very end of the film. Okay. And what happens is that you have these 5 people who are in this barn, and they have to be subjected to these traps and these games. And whenever one of them dies, one of them turns up just out. The corpse turns up out in the open, and the police take it in and do forensics and try and find out what's happening with this game. But then at the end, cool setup. Yeah, but then at the end, it turns out that the game took place 10 years ago, and the corpses showing up in the modern day are corpses that this guy is basically recreating this game just so that the police can find these corpses, just so that they can get the head police officer into one place to get him to do a confession that he's a corrupt cop and then kill him. Even though this guy who's setting up this game is this guy who's setting up this alternative game in the present day, not 10 years ago, is meant to be an apprentice of Jigsaw, is basically murdering people, going against Jigsaw's ethos. And the fact that the game that took place 10 years ago, the bodies were never found.
Why
the
not
bodies were never. So why are you doing this parallel story?
So why not just make Saw 8 set? I don't know whether it's set after Saw 3 or set before Saw 3, I guess. Just because, so is John Kramer running the barn stuff?
He's running the bar stuff, and he actually makes an appearance in person at the end of the game.
That's pretty.
And what happens is that he appears before we know that game takes place 10 years earlier.
Oh.
So all of a sudden, when near the end of the game, he takes his hood off, and holy shit, it's John Kramer. Mm-hmm. And we're thinking he's alive, what the hell is going on? And then it's like, oh no, it turns out that was just a flashback to 10 years ago, even though Tobin Bell has not, is definitely looking like his age at the moment.
I think that by itself is a fine reveal of Final Destination 5 does the same thing. I mean, you could just have a thing of he pulls back his hood, and it's it's Tobin Bell, and everyone's just like, wait, what? That means how is he alive? And then maybe you have someone puts out an iPhone Generation 1, and you're like, wait, this takes place 10 years ago. What? Or,
but it's the fact that it takes place 10 years ago, and it's a game that the police never found the bodies of, and nobody knew this game took place. Why is this guy in the present day recreating the game just to provide these corpses for the police? Even though the police didn't.
I hit my arm on the table. I know if you heard that.
I heard that. I felt that. So yeah, it's a twist that only exists in order to twist the audience, and it doesn't make sense in universe. The plot's bending over backwards to make it happen, and I would have rather the film just did not have that twist. Tobin Bell shows up as Jigsaw, no explanation as to how he got back. He is just back because screw it. This is the 8th film in this franchise, and we're doing it again.
He shows up and he just pulls the mask off, and it's actually I don't know, Dr. Gordon or something. I don't know. There you go.
There's no reference to Dr. Gordon, even though that was a loose end in Saw 7.
That's odd. And the fact that's how the movie, the whole franchise ended was with Dr. Gordon turning out to be working for Jigsaw, which how does that make any sense? Because why would Hoffman and Amanda not know about... this whole franchise is a mess, and apparently it feels like with episode 8, chapter 8 continues the mess. Do they at least have the classic Saw music at the end? That's kind of the best part of this whole franchise is that score. It's really good.
It's weird because I was aware that it was playing, but I didn't quite register with me that it was the Saw music, if that makes sense.
I'm imagining like someone dies, they pick up a tape, and you hear bum bum bum. Bum, bum, bum. Like that's how it usually happens, right? Like someone clicks a tape or something, and they have like a montage of like this is how everything happened, and the music's building and all that. Is that how they do it in this one? I'd imagine.
No, that's not what happens. The reveal is that the guy who set up is Jigsaw's apprentice, but he's not revealed that he's Jigsaw's apprentice yet, is in a trap with the corrupt detective.
Right.
And it's basically, okay, you have to confess your sins, otherwise this freaking laser beam on your collar will slice your face open.
The laser trap from the trailer. See, that's a cool idea for a trap. It's a modern take on Jigsaw, if you will.
And they actually do a Chekhov's gun with it, as in they establish the laser beams earlier on in the film in a really clever way. So what happens is that these two guys, they have to confess their sins, and Jigsaw over the audio recorder says, okay, one of you has to go first. You can volunteer yourself, you press this button, and then the trap will start. And then the detective is like, okay, I'll go first. He goes to press the button, he reaches over and presses the other guy's button and forces him to go first. Nice. And then he confesses his sin, that he actually... they could have detected Jigsaw's cancer earlier had he not mixed up the X-rays accidentally, and that's how they tie him into the franchise. But then the trap ends up killing him anyway. And then what happens that the police detective, he confesses that I let people go, I took bribes, I did this and that, and then the trap stops. But then the guy in the other trap, he stands up and he gets up, and it's revealed that in his collar were blood packets, and he faked his death just to get a confession out of the detective. He gives a 10-minute exposition dump, closes the door, the guy's face gets sliced off, end of film.
See, that can work. See, here's the thing, though, like, because that...
It can work, but it's so much exposition, and none of it makes sense.
But, like, here's my thing. You could either... The thing that takes place 10 years before or whatever, that can work on its own film. And the cop thing, that can work on its own film, too. Like, you could, like, what you've got here, Trilbee, is 2 separate Saw films that clearly shouldn't have been one Saw movie. You know what I mean? I don't know, maybe...
If you were going to do it as one Saw film, you do it with a cast of characters that we know. Yeah. These are all brand new characters who aren't that well established, who aren't that interesting.
Yeah.
Like, Costas Mandalor's twist works because we know this character.
You keep saying Costas Mandalor as in, like, Hoffman? Is that who you're referring to? Yeah, that's the actor's name. Okay.
I just like saying Costas.
Who?
I just like saying Costas Mandalor.
That's a nice name.
Like over the 7 films, that they had a regular rotating supporting cast of like Hoffman, of Amanda, of
Strong.
Jill, and all these, and all these other people. Whereas with the exception of Jigsaw's Tobin Bell's one scene in person, it's all entirely new. So you have to set up these brand new characters, but have them fit into this previous chronology, and the film just can't take it. It just doesn't. It doesn't logically work, and it was, like I said, it was a bit boring, and the traps weren't particularly interesting.
Well, even if you make it like, because I don't want to give away too. Because what the movie maintenance guys did is that in their pitch, they essentially did that it was the effects of the murders that John Kramer did that ended up causing this guy to essentially become a copycat killer, because his parents were taken from him or something like that in one of the Saw traps, and so he grows up becoming a killer like Jigsaw. And I think I'm remembering that correctly. And so you can in a way continue on the Saw franchise and not have it be about John Kramer. And I get why you don't, because it's like, when did Heather die in Friday the 13th? Not Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. When did they kill off, like in movie 7 or something? So I get...
it was later on.
Yeah, I get wanting to have your Scream Queen, if you will, except in this case it's Tobin Bell. I get wanting to have that kind of face of the horror movie. But, the face of the franchise, it's not necessarily John Kramer, it's the puppet.
The puppet's in one scene.
Yeah, I pretty much a scene from the trailer.
So
there are ways to do this franchise, and from what you're telling me, it sounded like one or two corrections could have easily made this a fun horror film.
Yeah, in terms of like the corrections, that actually is just to make the timeline and the story just actually make sense. But even if the logic was completely sound and it all worked out fine, it's still, the characters aren't interesting, and the traps weren't particularly engaging. There's one moment where this guy gets his leg caught in a trap, and then it turns out, oh no, this leg. You getting caught with your leg here was only just to prove that, you can't go this way, you can't break the rules. This is sort of a statement more than anything. And then these two other people wander into this other trap, and then the video recordings are like, oh, I knew this would happen. I knew that you two would be in this trap and that this one specific guy would have his leg caught outside. How do you know this? Like, if any of the people lined up differently, if someone survived a previous trap, or if someone died in the last one, like, your entire plan, this predetermined plan that you've had would completely fall apart. Whereas I don't think there was that much predetermination in the prior Saw films. And yeah, the gore when you do see it occasionally is actually pretty good, but you don't see it that often. But it's not in a oh, let's keep it off screen, let's leave it to the audience's imagination like the first Saw film. It's more like, yeah, we just couldn't be bothered to show it. It comes across more lazy than it is minimalist. And so I'm kind of, I wouldn't mind seeing more of these like every year, because it's like, if it's Halloween, it must be Saw.
That was kind of the big thing of the
and like the Halloween blood drive, where they like fans are able to, they donate blood and they receive a free ticket to see a Saw film, and apparently like nearly 500,000 lives have been saved because of the amount of blood that's been donated by fans. I love that sort of stuff.
That's pretty clever, actually. It's like all the blood shit has saved lives. It's very Jigsaw, if you will.
It's awesome. But I think if for the Saw franchise, if you're gonna bring back John Kramer, just bloody do it and commit to it. And I think fans will just understand and be fine. If they're fine with Jason Voorhees being revived by electrocution 3 films in a row, they're okay with bringing back John Kramer.
All you gotta do is be like, I was worried a prosthetic neck, so I didn't actually die, and I
have a twin brother.
Yeah, or something like, and that's all you really, and
just perpetually set these films in 2003 or something, and then before his death.
I mean, it's as simple as someone gets stabbed at the end of the movie and they pull off the mask. It's John Kramer, and the guy walks away and he clicks the tape. Music starts playing, and John Kramer explains about how he actually switched the bodies and his pull of Sherlock season 3, and we'll buy it because it's a Saw movie and we want to see more of John Kramer killing people just because it's fun.
It's like the directors of the Spear Egg Brothers, they've done great films before, like Daybreakers and Predestination, but I think with Jigsaw they've massively overthought it. I think Jigsaw is making a Saw film is much easier than they've thought it out.
Well, they didn't write it, did they? Like it was the script pitch, from what I read, is what got what got Lionsgate interested in the first place, was the writers pitching the film.
That's fair, but I am still looking forward to the Spear Egg Brothers' next film, which we had a trailer for it this week. Winchester, the house that ghosts built.
The Helen Mirren horror film.
Yeah, did you watch that trailer?
I didn't watch it, but I need to, because I am interested in that horror film. I like that story as well. Yeah,
because the story, for the listeners who don't know, Sarah Winchester, who played in this film by Academy Award winner Helen Mirren, and I love that
Academy Award winner and Fast and Furious 7 or Fast and Furious 8 co-star Helen Mirren, by the way.
But it's amazing seeing in like a B-movie horror trailer for the Winchester saying Academy Award winner Helen Mirren. I love the gall of that. But basically, Sarah Winchester, who was this heiress, it was the inventor of the Winchester weapons, Winchester arms. She after the death of her husband, she inherited like $500 million basically in modern times, and she was haunted by all these spirits in her house. So that with the Winchester mansion, for every ghost there was, she would order the construction of a room to be built in the house. So you've got this massive house that's like hundreds of rooms large, and staircases that lead nowhere, and spiraling corridors and stuff. And you can actually visit this house.
I've always wanted to go to it. Go at night and just kind of walk around with the flashlight. Oh,
it's a tourist attraction, and it's like, I think it was partially fell apart due to an earthquake, but then they were able to restore it. And I'm trying to remember how many.
I can imagine the guy that runs it's like, let's keep building, just keep building. Because then they said that she never stopped building until she died, right? Like it was up until she died that she kept.
Yeah, she spent $20 million just adding more rooms to the house with taking place.
What's the setup?
24/7.
What's the setup for the trailer then? Is it like a group of teenagers walk into this house and
no, it's set. It's a period film. It's set when Sarah Winchester's still alive, and it's Jason Clarke, I believe, is I think he's a detective. Jason Clarke is in John Connor from Terminator.
Planet of the Apes, but sure. There's better. Everest.
I forgot his character's name in Planet of the Apes, so I said John Connor.
Generic guy.
He's just investigating this house, I believe, or I think there's a medium in there. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly what their roles are. I only watched the trailer once, but from what I can remember, it's a really good trailer. So yeah.
Alright, well then I'll check that out. Okay.
But yeah, I think if you're a Saw completionist, sure, you've invested 7 films in this franchise. Why not give it another go? But I would lower your expectations.
Yeah. Well, at least they brought back the music. That's probably the best part of the movie, of the whole movie. Like that track by, I think his name's Charlie something. I forget his name, but that's a good track there. I think it's called Zepp. I think it's what the actual track is
Hello
called.
Zepp.
Yeah, it's a good track.
Yeah. I've got one more film, but I will be quick with it. And I mainly bring it up because it's the film Breathe, which is not the directorial debut of Andy Serkis. That's the Jungle Book film that he's doing, but that film's not come out yet, so this is technically his directorial debut, maybe. But basically, in 2011, Andy Serkis founded a company called Imaginarium Studios with this kid called Josh Cavendish. And he wants to become a film producer, so he's making these films together. But John Cavendish, his dad is Robin Cavendish, who was this individual who, when he was in his early 20s, he went on a trip to Kenya with his wife, and then his wife became pregnant during the trip, and he contracted polio. And he was left paralysed from the neck down, and he was unable to breathe without the use of a respirator. And him and his family were able to get him out of the hospital and start making these respirator wheelchairs so he could go and actually live a relatively normal life despite having polio. And Breathe is the true story of that. So if you're expecting some CGI massive motion capture fest from Andy Serkis
plays the wheelchair.
I was so tempted to joke about that, and I say that because I actually met Andy Serkis because he did some Q&A screenings, and at the Q&A, people were just lining up to talk to him, and he was such a lovely, nice guy.
I imagine you walk up to him and it's like, dude, I loved you as the wheelchair. You were fantastic, and it was you really.
Actually, my thing was I loved you as Captain Haddock from the Tintin film.
Did he appreciate that?
He did. He's like, I really want to do another. But his next project after this and Jungle Book, he's doing an adaptation of Animal Farm, the George Orwell story.
Someone was forced to read that at school.
But I didn't even know he was doing that until he just said it to my face, and I was like, wait, have I just got a scoop?
Did you check IMDb? Was it already on there?
I need to double check. Yeah. It's not on Wikipedia. But he just said it so openly.
So before I post this, you might want to get that out there. Andy Serkis to direct Animal Farm.
I'm gonna Google that, but yeah, what we've got in the film is that we've got Andrew Garfield playing Robin Cavendish. We've got Claire Foy from Netflix's The Crown playing the wife. Hugh Bonneville is the inventor of the wheelchair, and Stephen Mangan is like one of his representatives from the Disabled Agency. 1 second. Yeah. Oh no, it's already confirmed that Andy Serkis is doing an adaptation of Animal Farm, but not many people are talking about it. There's not much news on it.
I think they want to see Jungle Book first. I think that's the big story. It's Jungle Book.
Yeah, and he's playing Baloo as well.
Nice.
So yeah, but basically, if you've seen The Theory of Everything, you've kind of seen Breathe.
That's kind of what I was concerned with. I was like, is it just going to be another Stephen Hawking movie? I know it's not the same guy, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, with The Theory of Everything, I think that's a significantly better film than this, mainly because I think the love story and the relationship is so much more central to that film, and The Theory of Everything is kind of like an anti-love story. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like how love does not always win.
Yeah, La La Land or 500 Days of Summer.
Exactly, yeah. It's it's an anti-love story, whereas Breathe it's kind of playing that dynamic quite differently, because Robin Cavendish's wife Diana was notoriously just a very stoic and like very unemotional individual. Apparently the only time she ever cried in her life, according to Andy Serkis, was when a relative bought her a tea kettle for Christmas a second year in a row. That's apparently the only time she ever cried in her life. So
were those tears of sadness or joy?
I don't know. I think it's up to audience interpretation. But yeah, so she's playing sort of like a hard-assed character who is incredibly strong and determined, but it also means that she doesn't have a lot of range. And we know that Claire Foy is terrific in other stuff, but here she's kind of saddled with a bit of a limited character. And Andrew Garfield does basically classically awesome disabled acting, where he's just stuck in a chair, putting on an accent, because the guy, when he's talking, because of the respirator and just his natural accent, he's got a weird voice. It's like, I don't just want to survive, I want to truly live. Like he is.
Wow, that's good writing there, Trilbee.
Well, yeah, but that's actually his voice. He does genuinely sound like Bane from The Dark Knight Rises.
I'm sure I've seen the trailer, but I forgot how cheesy and that movie looks. I'm sure Andy Serkis did a fine job directing it. And
yeah, well, it's a relatively small project. It's a small, humble, true story biopic, and its intentions are absolutely in the right place, and it's clearly a story close to his heart, because like I said, Jonathan Cavendish, who's in the film, he himself is not in the film, but he's played by a younger actor in the film. He has a presence in it. It's a story about his family. And there are some actually pretty gruesome moments, and you are reminded that this is like, he could die at any moment if this respirator stops working, and how like the complications that can come from having this presence in your house, and how the respirator kind of becomes a third wheel in this relationship. But there's some great moments of humour, some great moments of drama, and some strong performances. I don't think I'm going to remember Breathe in a couple of weeks' time, but I'm still glad I saw it.
Depending on how much money they're willing to spend, certain people are going to remember the Breathe. I don't know when it comes out here in the States. I don't know if it's out here in the States yet, but
apparently October 13th.
Oh,
maybe it got a very limited run.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, depending on whether or not the Academy is feeling it this year. I mean, if Breathe gets nominated for Best Picture and Get Out doesn't, this is going to be a problem. That's all I'm going to say. I don't think the momentum's there. It's had such like a small rollout in other territories. And it's on 64% on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Crash, Lion. I mean, it happens. You know what I'm trying to say.
It happens.
It happens.
I think if this film is going to get anything, it would be Andrew Garfield, mainly because he just did an Eddie Redmayne this year. But I still don't think that's going to happen. I don't think there's any momentum there.
Andrew Garfield just really wants one. Like he did Social Network. And he was like, I'm going to get the Oscar for Social Network, all right? And he didn't even get nominated. And so then he did Spider-Man. He's like, well, I guess I'm going to be superhero now. And then that fell apart. And so
then he did Silence, because he had to atone for his Spider-Man sins.
and no one saw Silence. But then he did Hacksaw Ridge. And then who won last year, by the way, Best Actor? I forget. Was it Leo?
Casey Affleck.
It was Casey Affleck. Then the rapist won. And so he's kind of, he has to work through. He has to work through these things, and Andrew Garfield's
he's still good.
Yeah, he's doing what Will Smith did for a time, where he's just like, let's just put out just Oscar movie after Oscar movie, and I'll get it one of these days.
But yeah, I don't want to crap on Breathe, because I did like it. It did take me on quite a fascinating true.
And if you could get
story.
Andy Serkis on the show, I mean, I'm not saying you have to. I'm just saying that you do now know Andy Serkis.
Well, actually, there was someone who was a couple of spaces in front of me in the queue. I think she was maybe like a 17 or 18-year-old teenage girl. Yeah. But she was talking with Andy Serkis, and how she was saying that she was wanting to get into script writing. And I swear this is true. Andy pointed her in the direction of his personal assistant who was there, who was like standing by the door. Say, speak to her and get her, and she'll give you my contact details to send you scripts to. So, I was unable to get that sort of treatment, but it just shows how bloody courteous Andy Serkis is to outreaching and helping people out.
So what you're telling me is that you didn't get his contact details, Trilbee?
I couldn't just ask for it, but but hey, but,
come on,
no, but
you walk up and you say, "Oh, Mr. Serkis, I would love to have you on my show." That's all you have to say.
maybe, but still, yeah. But Breathe is good. I imagine it's doing really, really well when it reaches TV syndication in a couple of years' time. Like that's not necessarily like a critique of the film. It's just that's the type of story we're dealing with here. So I recommend it if you want to give it a matinee showing or watch it on Netflix or something when it comes out. But it's, Andrew Serkis directs it. Andy Serkis. I combined Andrew Garfield and Andy Serkis. Andrew Serkis directs it really well. It's got it's got some really good performances and a lot of big laughs as well. I think that there was some really great funny moments in the film as well.
Yeah. Well, that's good. All right.
So that was my film marathon. I had an eclectic day. Yeah. Death of Stalin, Jigsaw, and Breathe in one day.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my day was just I got a haircut and I had some tacos. That was my day today. That's what I did this morning. That's what I did.
Should have brought the tacos into the movies with me.
Well, I mean, I definitely wasn't scarfing out a taco right before you called. Right before I called in for the show. All right, Trilbee. Tell you what. Let's get to listener questions.
Excuse me. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Okay, guys, this is the listener question portion of the show because we answer listener questions on the Facebook page. Breathe. Okay, so I'm going to stall because every time I do this, I forget to open up the listener questions. I just have to know.
Oh, I actually have it ready for once.
Oh, okay, well, go on, Trilbee. Go ahead. You go ahead and ask one.
First question. This is the one I was referring to earlier in the podcast. Liam Stobie asks, if a director treats his crew members horribly but the movie turns out to be great, do you think that their suffering would have been worth it?
Yes.
And I was actually thinking about this earlier because I was listening to The Weekly Planet. So there's your tick on your bingo. That's a bingo.
Hashtag get Nick Mason on the show.
That'd be fun. Yeah, and they were talking about The Shining. It's directed by Stanley Kubrick, and how he basically put what's her name?
Shelley Duvall.
Basically put her through hell, and they filmed the movie chronologically, and that he would treat her terribly. The shot with the Jack Nicholson swinging the baseball bat at Jack Nicholson was they did like 700 takes of that. How that he would treat her terribly, how
he would alienate her from the crew and stuff, like just be the worst to her.
And give her scripts and like give her different lines of dialogue than was actually in the finished script, so that she had no idea what she was doing when she got to set. And she would come to him with like her hair was coming out in clumps, and she would show him, and he was basically just absolutely terrible to her. And I hate that. I hate that behavior because you could like just get like, I'm not saying she can't act, but if you want to drive somebody crazy on camera, you get someone to act it. Like I don't like the people, like actors are people too.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. What I will say though, and what I will say to play devil's advocate, is I don't think, as someone who has worked on film before, I do not think it is okay to belittle your actors and treat them like they are literally just props on your film set, or just playthings that you can do whatever you want with. I do think that we cannot let what happened behind the scenes take away the fact that sometimes a movie is a fantastic film. The Shining is a great movie. And horrible things happened on the set of The Shining, but it's still a great movie. I mean, Hitchcock did unforeseeable things to his actresses on the set of his films, but he still put out amazing flicks. You know what I mean? Like, And I think that we can't forget the fact that these are still great movies, despite the fact that a lot of tragedy had to go into putting them together.
Yeah, like, I don't doubt like how great the end results are, but I'm just thinking, did you need to do those things to get that?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a few things like for example, when making The Exorcist, and the room really was that cold, so you could see their breath. Like, okay, there's that sort of maybe shared suffering for the sake of art, and as long as everyone's kind of okay with it, it's like, I'm sure they can maybe complain, but I think if they're all
Leo,
sort
this
of
is your
on
fourth
board,
bison liver. It needs to be done in one take, so we're gonna give you some fresh bison liver. Because there's already a bite mark in that one, and I don't want you to flip it over, because I know it would save money, but we're not doing that anyways. Let me be fair when I say that I definitely made my actress and my actor. There's a scene in my short film where one character slaps another, the female slaps the male, and I would like to say that I have 21 takes of that slap on my computer.
You need like a compilation.
There is in the behind the scenes. There is
to the Tetris theme. Dun, 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 dun.
But and here's what I will say. So there are times where when we would rehearse, I'm like, let's just take it from the slap. And I as a filmmaker, I do get wanting that authenticity. And as long as both parties are okay with it, that's because my actor was cool with that, obviously, and we altered things in the script to make sure that both actors were cool with what was going on in the scenes, and my actor was cool with being slapped, and I'm like, well, great, well, I'm gonna have her slap you, and I did have to tell her not to hit his ear, but that's beyond the point. So I do get that side of it of, well, we need to make the most authentic film possible.
Yeah, it's if you're all like mutually agreed, then that's absolutely fine. Like, for example, a random example, but in Kingsman 2: The Golden Circle, you know that guy who ate the meat burger?
Yeah.
Apparently he's a vegan, and he did not know he was going to be eating actual meat on the set. So what they did was that Matthew Vaughn was like, okay, tell you what, do you want me to get a meat sub? Do you want me to sort this out? We'll get a different prop in. And the guy who was going to eat the burger was like, you know what, I'm fine. We'll just do it. That's okay. And because they were both cool, it was a mix-up, and they probably should have got that beforehand, but because they were both okay with it, when he bites into that burger and he's actually repulsed, real reaction, cool moment.
So see that. Well, it's the context in the scene is what bothers me there. You know what I mean? Like it feels like a vegan had to bite into a burger because in the scene the burger's cold. That's different, but like he's eating people in that scene.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
But I'm speaking more for like just the actor's state of mind, and if the fact that the actor was okay with doing something he otherwise just completely would not do.
Well, if you're a nobody, you're really going to tell Matthew Vaughn, whose first film made $450 million, you don't want to do that scene.
No, but it's also the fact that Matthew Vaughn was like, you know what, that's fine. Well, if you want to do something different or postpone it, we'll get a different prop in. That's fine. And the actor was like, okay, no, I'll be okay with it.
You know what? That's fair.
Apparently Matthew Vaughn offered compromise, and the actor was like, you know what, no, this is fine. So it's like this is going to sound weird to begin with, and may sound like I'm sort of bigging myself up, but I kind of have for the films I do, I have a reputation amongst my circle of friends of being amazing to work with. As in, when I was looking
You're
for
also
auditions,
incredibly modest.
Well, no, this is kind of setting stuff up, but it's like, when I was looking for auditions for the film I'm doing, I was like inundated with so many audition videos because people just really, really want to work with me, and I think it's because I'm overly nice on a film set. Even when I'm like instructing people to do what to do, I always keep on saying, if that's okay with you. It's like it's complete habit on my part.
You're British about it, Trilbee. It's almost like it's almost like you're Englishman.
But it's sort of like, can we put the exposure up? Can we get the lighting a bit higher up if that's okay with you? It's why am I saying that? I'm a director. I should just tell them to do it.
I've been told I'm quite the monster on set.
But also, when working with when we had a scene when it was like it was just the actress for the day, and it was just her scenes. We had to like blitz through all of just her solo scenes, and there was a lot of intense stuff, and that was like really dramatic and intense and everything. But what I would do is that whenever we're setting up, I'd be like, do you want me to go over the lines? Do you want me to go over it? And always like talking to her, making her feel comfortable and everything. And then whenever and one moment she was like, because it's October, the house was cold. And she was like, well, can I, is it okay if I guess take 2 minutes and just get a blanket? And I was like, get that blanket. God's sake, be as comfortable as possible. And making sure that she's okay. Just
I locked my actor in a room and told him to get angry with himself for a scene. So we have different approaches apparently. And that was actually going to be my next question, was how you approach working with your actors.
But it was also like, because I spoke to her, because she's got a scene where it's like it's coming off a scene where she's been attacked, and it's like her reaction to it. And it's like a breakdown crying scene. So I spoke to her beforehand, and I was like, okay, do you want to do these scenes in order to the escalation to it, or do you want to do it out of order? What are you okay doing? And also I said, so what do you need to prepare? What do you need to do to get to that state of mind? And she said, I just need to be just on my own for 5 minutes, and then I'll be okay. Yeah. And I was like, okay then, so what I'll do is that we'll set up, and I'll call action, and then you come in whenever you want to. like, you can be 5-10 minutes, whatever. We'll keep the camera rolling. You come in whenever you are ready.
All right.
But it wasn't. She didn't take the piss. It was like she called action. 20 seconds later, she's in the room doing the scene. But it like just. Actors are people. Just treat them with, make them feel as comfortable as possible, and they will reward you for it.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about our personal experiences and applying to it, which I guess is nice because we're both creators, which is nice to have these conversations. I'm helping direct our school musical, Beauty and the Beast, and on the ride home, I was talking with my friends, and we were talking about actors and how she's used to directing. And this time she's in the show. She plays the wardrobe, and she was talking about how sometimes she's always looked at actors as this kind of more of this. How do I say this? More of this. I don't want to say props, but she's looked at them more. I think how someone like David Fincher would see an actor, how like they are just one cog in a wheel that is your production, and you have to and you don't have to treat them like garbage, but they are simply just a part of your machine. And I think I looked more at actors as they are the most important thing on set, and they should probably know that, because they're what your audience sees. You know, they are, you know. If the way I look at film, the three most important things is sound, lighting, and your actors. Because if the first thing they're going to notice the audience is the sound. If the sound's terrible, nothing else is going to matter. You can have the most beautiful thing ever. Like Roger Deakins can shoot the movie, but if the sound's popping or the sound editing or mixing is awful, that's what they're going to notice first, because that's the first thing that's going to register in their brain. The lighting comes next for the next obvious reason, because what they see is important. But then the actors, you would have the best script ever. The best script, like Aaron Sorkin could write this bloody script. But if it's awful, if your name's Brenda Song and you're not a very good actress, you're not going to make that script sound good. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think that's why actors are so crucial and so important. So I'm not saying that we need to treat them like human garbage, but I am saying is that your job as your director, I think, is to, and this is my opinion, you need to push them as far as as they can be pushed to get certain performances. I didn't tell my actor to break his hand on the set of Equation, but my actor did. But my actor did damage. But there's a scene in the film, and I can send you the clip of it, of where he has he has a fit of rage, and he's knocking papers over. And I told him, I said, his name's Derek. I said, Derek, you can just go nuts. And he slammed his hands on the table, and this was like a thick oak wood table. And the first time he did it, he like chipped the wood a little in a place that we didn't belong to. So I was like, let's not tell anybody that we did that. But it's so the second time round where he came down on it, you know, and he fell to the floor, and I yelled cut, and he had to stay on the floor. You know how like in how Viggo Mortensen broke his toe in Lord of the Rings? It was essentially just like that. And so he hurt his hand, but I was like, you know what, Derek? He's like, what? I was like, that was a good take. And he was like, I'm glad. And so like, you know what I'm saying? So don't treat actors like garbage, but you need to push them as far as they can physically go. And I think that's your job as the director.
I think it's also because when you're the director, you have your primary objective is to get good performances out of actors. On top of all this other stuff you've got to do, like confirm the framing and sort out the atmosphere and the tone.
But if you have a good DP, you don't have to necessarily have a lot of your attention necessarily directed towards the framing. If you have a good DP that you can trust, that's what's important as well.
Yeah, which is why a director's primary job on set would be to negotiate and talk with the actors. Yeah. Which is why I think it's very important that they like you and also trust you. Yeah. And it's kind of why I try and make sure to communicate with the actors a lot. Like if I think they've done an awesome take, I'm gonna bloody let them know that I think they did an awesome take. And also make sure if they're okay with doing certain things, or if they need any help, or if they have any questions, because even though, if you're right, if the sound or the lighting is not right, then people will instinctively know. But if a performance isn't what it could be, they've got a face to associate with that and a name as well in the credits. There is sort of like that. There's that sort of like personal connection with that as well. So there's a lot on the line for the actors as well, which is why one of the scenes that we were doing is when somebody, it's just her on her own. She goes through a door, and then she has a few moments like on her own behind the door, and what was happening was that because of the lighting and the way the camera was set up, she was giving an awesome performance, but the camera was not getting it. So when we did the take, I spoke to her and I said, okay, you're doing awesome. We've got to make sure that the audience are seeing that as well, though. So you've got to position your body differently and sort of like, and change her posture and change the way she's standing and facing, just so that the work that she's doing is actually seen on camera, because that's the important thing as well. So it is sort of a compromise between making sure that the crew and the actor are working in tandem with each other.
Yeah.
But going to Liam's question, like for the crew members like suffering horribly, like there's merit to it. Like for example, Mad Max Fury Road,
yes.
when like that was a terrible and like that was a terrible and prolonged and difficult shoot. But I think, for example, the Stanley Kubrick thing I brought up earlier, when it's just being malicious for the sake of maliciousness' sake to an actor or maybe a crew member, in my opinion, that's completely uncalled for, and I can't even comprehend doing something like that.
I have been told I'm a monster on set, but at the same time, every time we walk in on set and ready to film, everyone's really excited. But I think so. I think there is this level of people are ready to get to work, and people are ready to I think it's because they know that I'm not going to let them give in a mediocre performance. At least performance I don't think is mediocre. I'm gonna make sure that I'm like, I've been known to do multiple takes on a film set. I don't know if I go like Fincher, where like my ratio is like 70-1, but it's definitely, if I don't think it's good, I'm like, you know what, no, we're gonna do it again. No, let's take that back and do it again. You know what, try again, we're gonna do this again. You know what, take it from the slap. You know what I'm saying? It's where I'm not afraid to go certain places with my actors, and I think that's an important aspect of filmmaking. And so to answer Liam's question, the crew is where I will go differently, in that you need to treat your crew like they're like a beautiful puppy. You know what I mean? Because the actors, the reason you push your actors is because you want the audience to see the best thing that they can give you. But the crew, unless they're like your DP, their crew is there to do a specific task. If you have a boom guy, a boom operator, don't yell at your boom operator. Say thank you, hold a good job, hold it right over here, put it here, If you have a camera, your DP, don't belittle him and treat him like he's not the most important guy on set. There's the crew as opposed to the actors are two, I think, different things. I don't know. That's just how I looked at it in my young novice filmmaking experience.
Yeah, whereas like acting is its own sort of creative thing that sort of needs that fluidity and it needs that rapport and the relationship between director and actor. Whereas crew members, it's a lot more technical based.
Yeah.
Like not to say there's no creativity to be found in camera work and sound operating, but it is. It can just be like a point and shoot, or the boom goes here. There are a specific set of rules on how to handle a boom and stuff like that. So it's more technical based.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
Yeah. So there's that long-winded answer your question, Liam.
Well, like I said, I've been thinking about this for like a while, and then all of a sudden this question comes up, and it's like, oh, I can finally rant.
He brought up a good point, and Liam also asked another question, but we'll come back to that question if we have time later on. Mersault Films, he asked, what do you think is the most visually beautiful film ever made? Should we just exclude the work of Roger Deakins, or?
I think that's fair. The film Hero.
Oh,
the Chinese film.
Well, there's different kinds of beauty, isn't it? Like there are certain films where they're beautiful because there's so much color. Like I would consider La La Land a beautiful movie because you look at look at the shot at the party with Emma Stone where she's walking towards the pool. All the dance sequences, and then have it contrast with the second half of the film where everything's very muted, everything's very, very, very realistic looking, but it's still very gorgeously shot. There's color, which is something that Roger Deakins does beautifully, is color, but then there's also staging, and which if you want to go all artsy with it, it's very French, but Game of Thrones is a great example of beautifully staged shots. But then you have to also ask, in terms of camera movement, at which point maybe Fincher takes over. There are different things that constitute what makes a film beautiful. Because at this point in my time, I have not seen a film that's made me go, oh my god, visually more than Blade Runner 2049. But at the same time, I understand that Mad Max Fury Road also exists, and so does Gravity or Interstellar. There are beautiful, just stunning films out there, but there are also films that just have certain shots that blow you away. Kingsman, I think, has one that has a beautiful action sequence.
Yeah. Yeah. There's also like beauty to be found in the macabre as well. Like I know it's not going to make any like most beautiful films ever list, but something like The Thing.
Oh yeah, no,
like,
absolutely.
Like,
the craft is gorgeous.
Yeah, with the practical effects and how those puppets and those practical effects will only look good from one angle, but they find that angle.
And and you watch it today, and it's still unsettling. It's still creepy. I think James Wan's a beautiful filmmaker, not because he's a handsome man, but because because of the way he makes and crafts his horror. I mean, the scene when the mom wakes up and then finds herself down into the basement and then leading to the clap jump scare in The Conjuring is one of the most beautiful setups in a horror film I think I've ever seen. But at the same time, you can take going back to The Shining. Shining's a film that looks beautiful with color, looks beautiful with staging, also has beautiful setups in horror. So maybe it's The Shining. You know, there are just different things that you have to. It's like the reason I don't like the category of Best Picture, because is Best Picture, do you constitute it as the film? Because if a film wins Best Actress, Best Actor, Best Director, Best Cinematographer, Best Writing, is that not the Best Picture? So, you know, that's when you have to ask, you know, is it the film that you find that is your favorite, or is it the film that was the best made? Because if that's the case, why did Spotlight win when Mad Max was right there, you know?
Yeah. It was like when the Oscars were first a thing, there was 2 categories for Best Picture. It was like Best Production and Most Artistic or something like that. Yeah. I think they should probably bring that back.
Yeah.
Like, it means you could have like the distinction between the art house or the dramatic films, and then you've got your genre technical achievement.
Best Film, Best Production. That way you can have a film like Moonlight win Best Film, but La La Land, which deserves it, wins Best Production. Because that way you avoid years where Mad Max Fury Road wins 8 Oscars and Spotlight wins 2, which is insane, by the way, that Mad Max Fury Road has like 8 Oscars to his name. That's amazing.
Oh, I'm so happy about that.
It has more Oscars than The Dark Knight, and there's something beautiful about that in and of itself. And so I don't know, what would you constitute as a... I didn't mean to get existential with this question, but you know, because
what is beauty?
What is beauty? I mean, we joke, but yeah.
Well, even something like Up, where you've got like the beautiful imagery of the house at the top of Paradise Falls.
The house just floating amongst in the sky, you know, just kind of floating still. Or
which is just so, like, you've just got this wonderfully like mundane house, but it's in the sky.
Or do you talk about this beautifully crafted? Do you talk about beautifully crafted scenes? Because sticking with the Pixar train, I can't think of a more beautifully crafted scene than the ending of Toy Story 3, you know, or when Sully says goodbye to Boo in Monsters, Inc. It's not the animation's a little crude looking, sure, but that scene is still beautiful, and it makes me choked up every time I think about it. You know what I mean?
So, yeah, I get you, but it's in regards to the question, it says most visually beautiful film ever made, and Massault Films, don't know if that's a him or a her, mentions the Umbrellas of Cherbourg, which is a film I have never seen, but I've just googled it, and my God, those umbrellas are colourful.
Yeah, it's a pretty title.
But you do have those classic musicals from the 1950s and 60s where it's those films that were trying to compete with black and white televisions by having these big screen epic, really colourful films, you know, CinemaScope, and making films like Cleopatra and these big these Fred Astaire musicals.
Film, double the size, extra wide, you know.
And something like Ben-Hur, which
I watched on my phone.
Oh God, the film snob in me
have you seen
not a fan.
Have you seen the Family Guy joke of like, now presenting Ben-Hur, and it's ultra cinema wide format, and they're watching like a 4:3 TV, and so it's literally just like 2 giant black blocks and this little bitty line, and it's Stewie's like, who's that woman over there? It's quite pretty, and then Brian goes, that's Peter O'Toole. I love Family Guy. Anyways, but in terms of visually, I mean, maybe it's just recency bias, but that Blade Runner is gorgeous. 24/9 was God, that's a pretty movie. I mean, just when Ryan Gosling's like, when we just get that smash cut of him walking in the desert, I mean, it's unreal how good looking that is. You know, the whole desert sequence is fantastic. The scene where spoilers for Blade Runner, I guess, but who's watching it anymore? Spoilers when Joy goes out into the rain for the first time, and they kind of stand opposite each other, and so you get those flashes of the red amongst the greens and blues. I don't know. It's hard to pick my favorite visually looking movie.
Yeah, but you've also got like the more cliche ones like Lawrence of Arabia.
Oh yeah.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Mm-hmm.
Almost anything like Hitchcock may have done.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, but I still think that the correct answer is Hero, because that is just the most gorgeous thing ever.
Yeah. I'll take your Hero, and I'll raise you a High School Musical 2, one of the best movies of all time. I'm just looking through my all-time favorite movies list, and I realize that I have High School Musical 2 here, and you know what? I'm not changing that. That's a good movie, and no one agrees with me. Where the Wild Things Are is a beautiful movie, visually wise. There's not a lot of color contrast, but I mean those shots. Some of those shots in the movie, like where it's just him and what's the big guy's name? God, I forget. It starts with a K.
From what? Sorry.
From Where the Wild Things Are. Max, and the I forget the big guy's name. James Gandolfini are walking alone in the desert, and they have that really existential conversation about when the sun's going to die, and you just kind of it's kind of there where you realize this movie's something else. This movie isn't just, they're talking about how things fade into nothingness. And then how the sun's gonna fade into nothingness, but we don't need to worry about it because it's so far away. It gets that movie. It's amazing.
Well, there's the work of Guillermo Navarro, who started off doing Quentin Tarantino films, but then kind of became Guillermo del Toro's cinematographer for Hellboy and Pan's Labyrinth and Pacific Rim. But Pan's Labyrinth is such a gorgeous fairy tale film as well. Yeah. That's a beautiful looking film.
Obviously,
as well. Once again, it's finding beauty in the macabre as well.
Obviously, the most beautiful movies out there are the Marvel Cinematic Universe films. I mean, easily. I mean, come on, guys.
No. The correct answer is Friday the 13th, Part 4, The Final Chapter.
No, you're thinking of Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan.
Oh no, I'm thinking of Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday.
You may be thinking of the cinematic classic Freddy vs. Jason.
Looks pretty cool.
That's not poorly
shot pretty
well. There's a pretty cool scene when Jason fights a bunch of people on fire. It's pretty sick, actually.
Oh yeah, and he's chasing the fat kid through the corn. Yeah. And he's on fire.
And he's like chopping people up while on fire. It's pretty sick. I won't lie. It's a genuinely good shot. Anyways, someone just tweeted out, "I need to go home. I'm drunk," for not liking the way Black Panther looks. The internet.
Well, yeah, it's amazing that we're talking about the most beautiful films of all time, and you're just like, Black Panther looks terrible.
It does. Anyways, look, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, you know what? We're at 2:07. Well, let me find another question to ask. Do you have another one you want to ask? Just in case.
No, sorry, I got very distracted because I was going through Twitter and I saw a Funko Pop of Crumbobulous Michael from Rick and Morty. And now I've just got his quotes in my head. Like, I just love killing.
Oh boy, here I go killing again. Let's see, that guy's a mate. Bring him back. Come on, you guys can do it, please. You brought back Evil Morty. All right, so Liam Stobie, back to him. He asked, what's your favorite kind of director? One who oozes style, one who provides a crowd pleaser, or one who tells an important story that makes you think? There are some that do all three.
Yes, that is the answer.
Yeah.
That's my favorite type of director.
Well, I if we're gonna talk about this, I don't think, because there are certain directors who just make popcorn flicks. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, there are directors who don't set out to make a tour de force kind of artistic art kind of movie. You know, there are filmmakers who just set out to make good movies. I think Fede Alvarez is a good example of that. When he made like the Evil Dead remake and Don't Breathe, he didn't set out to win an Oscar with the Evil Dead or Don't Breathe, but he made genuinely good horror flicks. Someone like, then again, you can raise me a Psycho or Shining or Silence of the Lambs, which are films that make you think, ponder life, question reality, and also happen to be very entertaining and can please crowds. Nolan is the king of that at the moment, of making digestible thinking man's content.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. You'll get say someone like Simon West, who did the Expendables sequel. Yeah, Expendables and Con Air, and he's doing he does a lot of Jason Statham films. Sometimes you need your Simon West in the world to make these Jason Statham films and these sort of like crowd pleasing action films that kind of need to be like kind of needed to fill up a film schedule slate, which kind of sounds really, really derogatory, but there's absolutely a place for that. But then you also do get like Guillermo del Toro's who have their own sensibilities and their own styles, who can provide a crowd pleaser that does also have great use of metaphors and characters that make you think and characters you get really attached to. And Sam Raimi and Peter Jackson. Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino is not exactly, he doesn't make tour de force art house films, but he's still considered a prestige director, like Martin Scorsese as well.
Yeah, they're crowd pleasers. They can sometimes have you question life, and they're also completely their own style. I think there are filmmakers who, like, if you have a Venn diagram, if you will, there are directors that can make crowd pleasers that make you think, but may not necessarily have a specific style to it. I think Interstellar kind of falls into that, but at the same time, it's also very Christopher Nolan in its dialogue, not necessarily its direction. Because it's kind of, if you go back and watch Interstellar, it's very much, it feels, how do I say this? It feels like the least Christopher Nolan-y movie, but it also feels like the most Christopher Nolan-y movie, because characters will, because Nolan is infamous for having his characters sit down and literally spit the theme of the movie out at you, but at the same time, it feels very different visually from his other kinds of films. Maybe it's just because it's set in space, but you also have movies that are crowd pleasers, and just ooze style, like Mad Max or Gravity, or a lot of Alfonso Cuarón stuff actually. Emmanuel Lubezki, who made Emmanuel Lubezki's the cinematographer. Excuse me, I meant Alejandro González Iñárritu. I always get those three guys confused. Who made Birdman and The Revenant, and I think isn't he working on something else right now? I forget.
I'm not sure. I kind of lost favor with him after The Revenant, so I've not really been keeping up with.
I didn't hate The Revenant. Work. I just didn't like. I just
thought it was just the most expensive episode of Jackass ever made. Hey, I'm Leonardo DiCaprio, and I'm going to ride this horse off a cliff.
I just didn't like the fact that we spent 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours. That movie's an hour and 50 minutes, Shelby. That movie could have been hour 40.
Yeah,
easy.
And it has nothing of substance to say.
Yeah, it could have been an hour 40 easily. You can cut like an hour off that movie.
Yeah, because make it like an art house exploitation film, and I'd be happy with that. But Alejandro Iñárritu's next project, he doesn't have any feature film work lined up. He's doing virtual reality short films.
All right. He loves doing stuff in one take, so he might as well just literally do things in one take. So
exactly,
that doesn't surprise me. I liked Birdman though. I know a lot of people don't like Birdman. I don't understand why.
I do like Birdman. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty darn good.
Yeah, I think
it's not making the top 10, but it's pretty good.
Well, that's just because Whiplash exists. You know what I mean? Like 2014 was a good year for movies. 2014.
Like Damien Chazelle. That's another awesome up-and-coming director who's his style. Like La La Land is definitely a crowd pleaser. It was a massive box office success,
and everyone who has seen Whiplash. Despite not many people having seen it, everyone who has seen it loves it, and it's a film that's very stylistic. Everyone who has seen it loves it, and it also has very poignant thoughts on obsession and what it means to be the best and what success is defined as. In a sense, relationships. Yeah, but I feel like that falls more towards the La La Land category. I feel like that was him expanding ideas that he did in Whiplash. But La La Land cost $30 million to make, and it made 445 million. Did not know it made that much. That much.
It was a massive problem. I think it was the most financially successful nominated film. I think it made even more than Mad Max. Yeah. Was that the same year?
Mad Max was the year before. Mad Max was 2015.
I think that year La La Land was the highest grossing Best Picture nominee.
Okay, well, just wait until the 2000 profit margin of Get Out gets nominated. I swear, Academy, if you don't nominate Get Out, like you've got to, there has to be like 8 other 9.5s to have come out for you not to have nominated Get Out this year. I don't understand how you don't at least give it Best Picture, and best original screenplay nominations. I don't see how you don't give it those at least. I'm not saying nominate everyone for the acting performance in this movie, because no one's terrible in the movie, but there's no like exceptional standouts. Daniel Kaluuya does good work though, but like I
think realistically we've got
Thanks.
We've got Blade Runner.
Sorry.
Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk. That's probably going to get nominated, isn't it, for Best Picture?
Did they nominate Interstellar that year? 'Cause I don't know. I don't think they did.
I don't think for Best Picture.
Yeah, so they might give it. They might give Dunkirk a lot of like technical awards, like cinematography and sound and stuff.
I think Baby Driver is the outside shot to get a nomination because
big budget stuff, or bigger.
Well, as in genre stuff that's not like drama or art house stuff. Because Baby Driver was being hugely touted by people within the industry on Twitter. Like Guillermo del Toro went on like a 14-tweet tirade on just how much he loved the film. It seemed like every hour there was another major Hollywood figure who was saying how much they love Baby Driver, and they are voters in the Academy. Yeah. So we also got The Mummy, which is probably going to get a couple of nominations.
Wrong ceremony trophy.
Sorry. We've got Saban's Power Rangers.
Wait a minute, hold on. We joke, right? But I mean, let's not forget the Academy Award-winning Suicide Squad. Here's my thing, right? People are really
Logan.
Oh, yeah. I was just bringing up that article. There's an article clamoring about which comic movie this year deserves to get Oscar buzz more. Is it Wonder Woman or Logan? And I think Logan feels far more like a movie that deserves Academy Award nominations than Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's a good movie. It is.
I think even most optimistically, the only thing Wonder Woman's going to even get a shoe-in for a nomination for, let alone a win, would be probably costume.
Costume and hairstyling, or costume design, maybe some sound stuff, because there's some good stuff in the war. But then again, Dunkirk has sound like Taken, if not Dunkirk, then Blade Runner, but either way it's Hans Zimmer. So score this year is going to be a killer, isn't score going to be just like what's going to win this year for best score? Because you've got I feel like Hans Zimmer's going to be going up against himself this year for score, because the score for Dunkirk's amazing, but the score for Blade Runner might be even better. Like, I don't know what people had issue with that Blade Runner score. Did you like the Blade Runner score?
No, I did like it. I just heard that a lot of people who saw it in IMAX just found it way too loud.
See, I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe Santico's theater just treats me right. I don't know.
Or maybe you've just seen so many IMAX films you are now partially deaf.
You know what, though? You joke. I feel like that might be partially it. I think I might be going deaf because I go to the IMAX every week. I don't know. But I feel like this year might be a chance for bigger movies to be, or more genre flicks, if you will, to be nominated. Get Out, Logan. In my ideal world, James McAvoy gets something for Split, but I know it's not going to happen, so it's fine. Even though James McAvoy is incredible in Split, and he deserves something, but no one's going to care. Just like John Goodman in 10 Cloverfield Lane, that's fine.
Who knows? Maybe there'll be an outside shot for Justice League and Jason Momoa for Best Supporting Actor. My man.
You know what's funny? We joke, but Justice League might come out and get like 98% on Rotten Tomatoes and like make like $3 billion. I mean, like Force Awakens money. Could you imagine? Look, I'm not saying I don't want that to happen. I do, because that would put me at ease if that's like the best movie of the year. But then Last Jedi is coming out, and that movie looks gorgeous. Oh, I'm excited for the Oscars this year. Kimmel's hosting again, so there it is.
Yes,
right.
But yeah, for Liam Stobie's question, favorite kind of director is someone who can do all of them, like Neil Blomkamp with District 9 or Edgar Wright with
everything.
The World's End. yeah. But I think specifically The World's End, I think is his most well-rounded film. Even though I think Shaun of the Dead is my favorite of the trilogy.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Sad Affleck, I agree. Okay.
or James Cameron for Terminator 2.
Yeah, because they released it this year, didn't they? All right, so
that counts.
That does count.
Terminator 2 wins Best Picture. It kind of reminds me of like the weirdest thing I think I've ever said on camera in a video. It was like I was doing a sketch video of another channel, and it's just a cold open of me mid-review, and it's like, I think the best movie of 2015 was the 1996 re-release of Guys and Dolls. So what is this? What is this opening?
They re-released Guys and Dolls in 1996.
No, it was. I'm misremembering, but it was the 2014 re-release of the 1960 classic Guys and Dolls is my favorite film of 2016 so far.
Well, there are reviewers that will review like a year, like the best movies of 2012 released in 2015. Looking at you, YMS. I'm looking right at you.
Yeah,
looking at you.
I remember that there was a Guys and Dolls re-release a couple of years ago.
That's odd. That's an odd time to release that. I mean, it's good, but like, that's odd.
It might have been an anniversary.
I guess that makes sense. All right, and with that odd fact, we're gonna close. We're gonna end the show. We're at 2:20. We're gonna end it here. What time is it over there? It's trying to be like what? 3 o'clock? 2 o'clock?
20 past 11.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Daylight savings. Wait a minute. So wait, talk to me about this real quick. It's 20 minutes past 11 o'clock there.
Yes.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yep. I think the clocks went back an hour yesterday.
Okay, so then it would only be almost 1 o'clock there then. Typically,
typically it would be 20 past midnight.
20 past midnight. That's Maybe I'm starting to get. What time is it at 2 o'clock? If it's 2 o'clock here, what time is it here? You know what? We don't have time to worry about this. We don't have time to talk about math. I'm sorry.
Sounds like a Professor Layton puzzle. If it's 2 o'clock when Trey's recording the podcast and with daylight savings time, what time is it when Trilbee records?
Oh, I'm going to fail that test. All right, and with that, we're going to close out there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Trilbee, where can people find you?
You can find me solving a Professor Layton puzzle. You can find me on my website at www.trilbee.com, providing that it's back up and working by the time these podcasts go up. We've had WordPress issues, it's been weird. You can also find me on Twitter at Trilbee Reviews and on my YouTube channel at Mr. TARDIS Reviews and Trilbee Reviews, where I've posted a long-awaited Doctor Who review this past week. It's a 40-minute long epic of my review of The Rings of Akaten, so that should not be controversial at all. Trey, where can people find you online?
They can find me ducking and cover from all the snipers after I said I didn't like Stranger Things Season 2 that much. You can also find me on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, all at Podcast Media. Directing musicals, directing short films, applying for colleges, spending a lot of money that I probably don't have on me. I guess that's it. I'm tired. It hit me just 10 minutes ago. Catch you.
just thinking with the sniper laser above your head, it's like, oh, this guy didn't like Stranger Things Series 2. He also thinks that Black Panther looks terrible. Oh, this guy's going down.
This monster needs to end. Catch you all later, our movie maniacs.
Happy Halloween.
Oh yeah, Merry Christmas.